On behalf of TiE Chandigarh, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to today's session on understanding digital personal data protection and the labor code, organized in collaboration with Grant Thornton. This session is designed to help founders, HR leaders, legal, compliance, data governance professionals, and senior management teams understand the practical implications of critical regulatory frameworks that will shape organizational compliance and governance in these years ahead. Let us now begin with understanding digital personal data protection. To set the context now, we would like to invite Mr. Rohit Das, Partner, GD, Cyber SL, Cyber Strategy and Governance, Grant Thornton. Mr. Rohit is a partner with Grant Thornton Bharat and business leader focused on transforming organizations by strengthening their technology, cybersecurity and resilience frameworks. With an earlier career in healthcare technology and an MBA from FMS Delhi, he brings a strong blend of business and technology insight. Mr. Rohit has led a complex cyber and IT risk initiatives across public and private sectors with deep expertise in cyber strategy, governance, data privacy and protection. May I request Mr. Rohit Das to please welcome on the stage, and can I have a round applause from the audience for the same. Can we have the presentation? Next, we now invite Mr. Kush Wadhwa, Partner Forensic Technology SL, Incident Response, Grant Thornton Bharat. Kush Wadhwa is a partner with Grant Thornton Bharat in ESG and risk consulting with over 20 years of experience in cybersecurity, digital forensics and incident response. Based in Gurgaon, he advises organizations on cyber risk management, investigations and regulatory matters. Mr. Kush has led high-profile engagements, supported litigation and enforcement actions, and is a frequent speaker at leading industry forums, bringing deep practical insights into complex cyber and technology risk. Please put your hands together and may I request Mr. Kush Wadhwa, sir, to please be on the stage to start the presentation. Can we have a round of applause, please?
A warm welcome and really appreciate inviting both of us. Kush and myself are extremely happy, honored and delighted to be here in front of all of you. And I know this is a forum where we have a balanced mix of inventors, business leaders, entrepreneurs, and beyond that, CXOs of organizations. So very, I would say the apt audience to discuss such a very pertinent topic for, which is, I would say, one of the hottest topics being discussed in all the forums these days. So thank you so much for that. You have any initial thoughts?
No, good afternoon everyone. Definitely this is going to be the hot cake. It's already a hot cake in the industry. It's really important for people to understand what the law means. And why is it really important? It's just because of the financial penalties that are involved. India is going through a different trajectory altogether. If you see, the laws that we have seen in the past had the fines of, in lakhs, or, it was amounting to, let's say 50 or 60 lakhs or 1 CR at the max. But this law is completely changing the dynamics on how the digital data will be seen by the company, by the data fiduciaries, by the data principals, and we are going to talk about what these terminologies really mean. So very important, I would say, for the startups, especially because they are in the evolving stage. They are in the process of putting digital transformation. They're in a phase of digital transformation. They are in a phase of deploying the solutions and capturing the customer data. So sit back, relax, and definitely this is going to be a very exciting topic for you. And only one request that I have with the audience, in fact we both have, let's make this more of a dialogue and not a monologue. There will be a lot of questions. No question is good or bad. It's just a question and we will try our best to answer in the best possible manner. Okay, Rohit, over to you.
Yeah, thanks Kush. And I think, while Kush did mention about the dialogue aspect, we have periodic checkpoints where we've especially enabled with Mentimeter. I'm sure a lot of you already know what is a Mentimeter. We would want you to please contribute during the session, where we would want to take your inputs during the entire course of presentation. It's not a one-side discussion. But yeah, I think while we take this forward, one of the most important pertinent aspect which Kush also alluded to is the entire journey India or Bharat currently is in, right? So currently we are in a digital transformation journey which all of us are part of, where we are transforming every business, government, public sector, private sector, all together, moving the entire economy in its own sort of pace. And I just want to quote our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, who recently in a conference did allude to how much digital transformation or AI, agentic gen, and other forms of artificial intelligence is going to contribute to our digital economy. It's more than $1.8 trillion, which is going to get added to our GDP. It's a very massive amount of contribution purely by use of artificial intelligence. And every click or every view that you're going to have, every swipe is going to create some or the other logs or data points, and henceforth that is going to get monitored, it's going to get sensitized, it is going to get audited, all of that. So how is that pertinent in the current times is exactly what we will discuss through the framework, which is the Digital Personal Data Protection Act. Just to introduce the topic in itself, what we have in store for us, broadly want to cover the overall evolution of TPDPA. All of us would have heard about the Act got enacted in 2023. There were certain discussions happening in terms of clarifications to the Act. The rules eventually came in January end 2025, and the clarifications to the rules just recently came in November 13th to be precise. So I think we will be talking about the entire evolution itself, followed by the Act, and we want to specifically talk about incident response, where sort of Kush is one of the country's leading incident responder for that matter. So I think a lot of live examples will come where we'll discuss about all of that, and then followed by how should organizations really react to this entire act or the movement of data protection.
To be honest, I'm not in a favor of having any PPTs because faces are glued to the screen, to be very honest. What the content is more important is what we are speaking. It is going to definitely embed a lot of knowledge in what you will be gaining from this session. So even if it is not there, we are going to cover each and every point that is there in slide. So I think it should be absolutely fine.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks Kush for that. So I think just a quick summary of the overall journey of data protection which the country has gone through in the last, I would say, 6 to 7 years. Way back in 2019, a couple of you would have been part of this conversation. You would have heard about a personal data protection bill which came into effect. There were discussions happening. There was Justice Sri Krishna committee which was formed. Discussion happened. It sort of really did not take shape in terms of an act in itself. There were further deliberations which happened with JPC 2022. The bill for the digital personal data protection was drafted, and in November 2022 it was released for public comments, followed by August 2023 where the entire act was formed. But when the act was formed or got the president's assent, there were still further a lot of operational questions, queries which came from multiple agencies, academia, organizations, fiduciaries, legal firms, and even for that matter, a lot of large organizations and even enterprises, including public sector for that matter. Right from there, now because of all those questions, queries, further there were clarifications which were brought in terms of rules, which was far more operational in nature in terms of how do you really act, how do you really perform these activities, how do you report a breach, how do you ensure that how much do I qualify as a significant data fiduciary. I will be introducing some of these terminologies because Digital Personal Data Protection Act is not only for a compliance mandate, it is going to be something that will transform the way that you as a business will perform. right? So you can't look at this as, you know, a tick in the box or to comply to certain activity. It has to be a business process re-engineering in itself, right? So from that perspective, we will look at some of the, how this will come into effect, when will this come into effect, what should organizations do, and all of that. In November 2026, after this, in November 2025, this act is effective with certain timelines. They're very clearly given, into 3 phases. One is the phase which becomes immediately active, which is the formation of a data protection board, or you can just visualize in terms of a regulator for data, processing within the country. Like you have RBI, SEBI, IRDA, TRAI, etc. We will have a data protection board who will form the regulator to control the data movements within the country. So that formation has happened already. It is a 4-member team. The details of the 4-member team, the constitution, etc. is being decided at the moment. The next timeline is November 2026, where there is a consent management framework becomes effective, which is 1 year down the line, and organizations will need to imbibe or form or leverage these consent management frameworks, because organizations will be collecting data from a lot of individuals, from customers, third parties, fourth parties, etc. They'll be processing it, they'll be transferring it to third parties, they'll be taking it back, they'll be storing it, sometimes they'll be destroying it. So entire life cycle of data collection to destruction or archival, you will need to apply these frameworks, and especially the consent management will become a more important element, because how else do you form a legal basis to ensure that the data of individuals are collected with the right intent and the purpose. And also in May 2027, the entire enforcement is coming into effect.
No, I just want to take a sense of how many of you as an organization or as an organizational representative have already taken DPDP gap assessment to understand what is the position that your organization holds. How many of you have?
Raise of hands, please, if you have.
Okay, and how many of you think, we still have 18 months and we will cover in 18 months? Okay, so now I can see heads being nodded, but not the hands raised. The thing is, the time has elapsed and the time is ticking, and trust me, it's a ticking time bomb. The fines are huge, maximum being 250 CR. This should have been done a year back, and if not year, 6 months back, because now the 18 months duration that has been given, it's the time that the government has buy-in to set in certain things for themselves, which is like setting up of a DPB, which is Data Protection Board. It is not for you. It is for the government to make this law fully operational. Go for the gap assessment. Understand what's the posture that your organization has. Is there a consent management framework that exists, which we are going to talk about what exactly it means. But that's my 2 cents on this specific thing before we move forward. And I forget this point. I thought I'll just quickly tell you that this is really critical for you guys.
This is dollars.
Sorry?
This is dollars.
Dollars, yeah.
No, 250 CR is INR, but you can convert to dollars. It's still a significant amount. I mean, for me, for sure.
Yeah. So I think with that, what we will do is we'll go for a first mentee. If you can just share the mentee, please. Here we want to. What we want to know is, what is your awareness level in terms of DPDPA? I hope you can see the screen. You can take your mobile, scan the QR code, and this is just to get a sense of the audience, right? Which sector do you belong to? What do you really do? Yeah, so we have education, we have staffing and recruitment, IT, ITES, okay? financial, great. We have recruitment, consultancy, software development, ed tech.
Financial is.
Yeah. Excellent, excellent. I think we got a sense of where we are headed. So we have a balanced view of consulting, education, software development, ITS services, staffing, recruitment. Good to know that you have a legal as well. So I think we will, of course, the reason for putting this across was to contextualize our discussion and far more talk about the examples which will be pertinent to your industry sector. Yeah. So I think with that we will prove.
Just one question. Which sector do you think contains the personal information of all the sectors given, which contains the personal information and should be concerned about the DPDP law?
We have mics here, so feel free to put your hands and we are happy to distribute the mics.
Product-based company?
Product-based companies, yes.
And ma'am, you were saying something.
All the sectors.
Absolutely. Tell me one sector which does not contain PI information. Knowingly or unknowingly, you will be capturing customer information or even the staff information. So employee information, if stored like let's say the passport information or the PAN card or the Aadhaar card, that's categorized as the PI information. Yeah. So every sector is important from this law perspective.
Right. And I'm not talking about financial information. We are talking about personal information. Why is this entire act around personal information? Or what is personal information for that matter? Aadhaar card, yeah.
But what is personal?
Is it to do with your broad KYC concept which we have?
Yes.
No. What information is categorized as personal information?
But the question is, yeah.
So let's say you have one.
To do with your identity, especially to do with the financial or the career and other thing we do, which goes into all these.
Sir, what's your name?
Anurag.
Anurag. Okay, with the name Anurag, can I identify you? Probably not, right? What's your second name? Okay. Anurag Man. Again, can we identify you? May not, right? Let's say we have your email address. Then we may be, right? Let's say we have biometrics. We have more further information.
Aadhaar card, your PAN card, your address.
Multiple personal information jointly when it comes together, then you can really identify a person. So that is a personally identifiable information.
So it's like an irrefutable, unique identification for any individual.
Correct.
Health records, your DNA records. Any information which can map to an individual across the population of 8 billion as we speak right now, it's a PII information. Yeah.
It's important to understand because sometimes there are techniques to not identify by pseudonymization, by anonymization. These are all techniques that we adopt so that you don't really lead to a person, right? So these are all techniques which, like encryption, etc., which helps you to not lead to a person. But yeah, with that we'll come back. If you can just go back to the presentation. Yeah, we just want to first talk about the applicability of the Act, right? So this is, the Act is named as Digital Personal Data Protection Act, right? Let's say if I put some personal information, let's say Anurag, so your name in a piece of paper, does it quantify or is it really applicable? Is the Act applicable?
It should be.
No. In a piece of paper, it's not. But let's say if it's a piece of paper, I take a photo and digitize it, it becomes applicable. So it's Digital Personal Data Protection Act. It's not Physical Data Protection Act.
So how does it cover that? Because that itself is a problem still.
No, so what the law says is...
Okay, I think you can go into the
Yeah.
side first.
Absolutely, but just 10 seconds, not more than that. Any digital data and non-digital data which is converted to digital data by the mean of scanning is categorized as your digital information.
So eventually the idea is that a lot of organizations still continue to operate in the physical form, but eventually the idea is that everyone will digitize themselves. So henceforth, the act in itself. If you can just go to the next slide. Yeah, next. Yeah, so I think this slide is a little crowded slide, but I will help you to sort of look at it. First from the top, there are two aspects which we talk about. What is the applicability of the act? We did talk about the digital side of it, the digital personal data. But any data, any digital data which is collected online, offline, further converted online or digitized, and which is processed in Indian grounds, constitutes, they are applicable, right? But let's say you, Mohit for you, right? So Mohit, you take a picture of yourself or maybe of a group of friends and upload it in LinkedIn. Does the Digital Personal Data Protection Act become applicable? The answer is no. Because it's a personally, voluntarily, you are putting it across in social media. But as an organization, if you are doing it, yes, it becomes applicable. Right? So there are a couple of terminologies. Yeah, please.
No, this
way of consent management.
No, yeah,
we'll come to that.
We'll talk about it. But let's say I take a picture of Rohit and I put it on Instagram. Will this be a problem for me?
Until unless he doesn't allow it. I mean, if it is done with his consent, no. If
So,
not, yes.
So does that mean that for every picture that goes into Insta, there has to be a consent that has to be taken?
It could be a global consent for X period of time or X kind of thing. Something. There can be some category.
So the bill says this is more from the organization perspective. The data, when you understand the concept of data fiduciary, right, you will understand what the law actually means. This is not for the individuals. This is definitely for the children below 18 years, where the parents have to give the consent to the organizations whether that data needs to be processed or not. But when it comes to the social media, absolutely, it's the individual's choice what it is uploading. It will not fall into the category of DPDP. It's more for the organization who processes the data and use that data for attaining certain activity, certain means. So we are going to decode that part for sure.
Is this by and large happening globally also? That
Absolutely, yes.
organizational level, not
Yes.
outside of it?
It is applicable to organizations. In India, it is called data fiduciaries. As in, the organizations who are defining the purpose of your data collection. Let's say you belong to an organization. Where you join the organization, you will be signing an employee code of conduct, you will be signing the employee onboarding, so on and so forth. You are signing your consent to the organization for their processing. So you will be writing all the clauses which says that we will be using your data for XYZ purposes. We will be using it for, maybe payroll processing, which is outside my organization. I may be outsourcing it, so on and so forth. So that's how. Yeah.
Sorry, the perfect example. Messi was in India and his videos are all over the internet, right? He didn't give consent. Will that be a problem for anyone who is uploading? No, because any individual who is uploading is not a data fiduciary, or it's not being used to attain certain task where that personal information is being used. Now, Bajaj Finance, I am sure a lot of people are, they are sick and tired of getting the spam calls, right? And anyone from Bajaj Finance, I'm really sorry for that, but that has to stop because they are using that personal information to call up the individuals, and that is not allowed because they have not taken the consent from the individual. And yes, if the individual has given the consent that he can call up and he enjoys spam calls, absolutely, it is okay.
Yeah. So we got introduced to the concept of data fiduciary. I hope you got a sense of it. Now there is another terminology called data processor. Just to give an example, any organization which is processing the data of a data principal means a data subject or the citizen data, is called data principal. Okay, you and me, all of us are data principals as per the terminology of the Act. So a data processor is an organization which processes on behalf of the data fiduciary. Right? For example, let's say a healthcare service provider outsources their payroll, right, to another payroll processing company. The payroll processing company is a data processor. A cloud service provider, a ITES service provider, right? They are outsourcing it. So that organization is called typically a data processor. But here, who's collecting the data? The data fiduciary, which is the data controller, right? Who's collecting it from vendors or collecting it from employees or maybe from third parties or maybe from their customers. All the data is collected by the data fiduciary and giving it to a data processor who's a vendor. So just to get a perspective, I just want all of us to be on the same page. Similarly, there is a new terminology called consent manager. Sir, you were talking about consent manager. Why is the consent manager very
the most critical aspect? So ask as many questions. Consent manager sits at the heart of this law, and this is the most important because you as an individual, you as a part of the organization will decide what the consent management will look like, how to give or revoke the consent, and there are frameworks, there are solutions available, and sorry for hijacking, but please go on.
Yeah, so consent manager again is going to be, yeah.
A small question here. You said fiduciary is essentially collector of data.
Yeah. Is any organization which is, yeah.
So how do you differentiate between the collection, storage and keeping it and the ownership of data?
No, the ownership is what we are referring to here.
So data fiduciary is the owner of the data.
Because it has been collected for a purpose and with the consent.
Yes.
And that has been told that we are taking the data only for this specific purpose. So let's say I'm
For
taking
a specific maybe time also.
yes,
Specific time
absolutely.
duration.
You are supposed to delete it or do something more.
Yeah.
And before I'll come because there are certain ifs and buts to it. So let's say there is an organization which which stores the data, but from the regulatory perspective, let's say banking industry, like they have to store the transaction records, they have to store the customer ID, the bank account details, and so on and so forth. Bank account detail is a PII because that maps again to the individual, right? Now, if the customer says that this data needs to be deleted, it will be deleted, but bank has a moral obligation to meet the regulatory requirements as well. Right? There will be scenarios where the regulators ask has to be fulfilled, and they will tell the individual that we are storing this information only for the regulatory purpose, but for any other purposes, it's all deleted. We are not going to use this information.
5 year, 10 year, 20 year, whatever.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The reason I asked this question was slightly different. We'll take it up.
Sure.
Okay, absolutely.
So just to elaborate on the same example which Kush mentioned. So Kush, let's say, is giving this information to the bank, HDFC Bank. Kush is the data principal. HDFC Bank is the data controller, or in Indian parlance it's called data fiduciary. So let's say HDFC Bank takes information from Kush and shares it with a third party for processing. Let's say payroll processing. He's an employee, his data is sent for payroll processing. Let's say Mind Solutions for that. Mind Solutions is the data processor. HDFC Bank is the data fiduciary. He is the data processor. Now, in the entire context, because you are collecting data from multiple parties, how do you really establish a legal basis or a legitimate basis of data collection? Is where you require something called a consent manager. Because it's very difficult to manage consents. Let's say tomorrow Kush comes and says, I have given my data, please delete my data. So you as an organization or HDFC Bank as an organization will have to ensure that where and all have I stored the data. How do I ensure that right from my database A to database C or D or 100 such databases where his logs are there, I have to delete all of that.
No, and you have to kind of prove it that.
And you have to prove it.
And that's where the consent management framework comes in, which stores the logs that yes, this data came into the system at this date and time, and this got revoked on this date and time. Yes, I can understand the frustration and the pain that the organizations have to go through, but it's better to take that than to pay 250 CR.
So a consent manager is going to be an intermediary or an organization who will work along with the data protection board on the one side. They will get themselves registered.
You know, there is an ad doing the rounds. So people make random AI queries, and there is a blackout.
Yeah.
A link between
Yeah.
climate and one and all this stuff. So I'm just thinking of that. No other frustration.
But I think it's more about the adoption. Like when the internet came in, it was more like, oh my God, I don't know what this problem is, right? Similarly, as with this thing, we are going to be habitual to deal with this situation. So it's the world that we are living in.
We are a place where we use a genset to charge an EV.
Any queries? Yeah.
Checkbox on at the bottom of that query form. So that is more than enough, or do I need to make some other structure where a customer or a prospect will actually know, okay, I'm giving the consent to contact us or like promote my process my data.
So while you collect the information,
Yeah.
there is something called privacy notice.
That's right.
So you have to give a proper notice in terms of what information you're collecting, why are you collecting the information, what will you use.
No. You have seen the terms and conditions. Click on terms and conditions and
Yeah.
the solution.
So one place you can do that. Secondly, while you're giving the consent, it has to be explicit consent. It can't be implicit that, there is no option for somebody to move forward, right? So that should not be there. That option should always remain, irrespective if the consent is given or not given. Second aspect, I think we covered the key terminologies. Now, we just want to touch on one important aspect, which is the data privacy principles. So there are 7 principles of data privacy. It cuts across all the laws of the world, so including DPDPA. Anyone would have heard about GDPR? Raise of hands. GDPR, yeah. Quite a lot of you have already heard about GDPR, right? The EU Act, EU Act on Data Protection is referred as GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation, which is applicable in EU. It is also there in UK, and Ireland as UK GDPR. But essentially, if you talk about GDPR, DPDPA, the CCPA in US, PIPEDA in Canada, Australian Act, Singapore Act, all of the acts, if you talk about, these are the 7 principles which will cut across all the acts. There will be 10-15% of the terminologies, the operational elements, etc., which may change, but eventually these are all the same. So first principle is lawfulness, fairness, and transparency. Whenever you're collecting the data, you should talk about the lawful reason or requirement for which you are taking the data. What is the fairness? You have to be transparent about the usage of the data, the purpose of the data, limitation of purpose, right? Purpose has to be limited. Third is data minimization. Data minimization. Can anyone talk about, anyone is aware of data minimization? Absolutely, absolutely. Generally, in any organization, when you collect personal information, you collect as much as information you can, right? But the principle says that you collect only the information which you require. And why is it relevant? Let's say tomorrow, God forbid, your organization goes through a cyber attack. Let's say a ransomware attack, which Kush is favorite topic, right? So if organization goes through such an attack and the regulator, let's say data protection board, comes to know that you have collected an information which you really don't require, the question will come to you, why did you collect this information? Your data processing doesn't require this. Straight away, 250 crore. So the point is, and if you, how many of you use Netflix? Netflix users? I'm sure all of you use. Netflix is a classic example of data minimization. They will take only the data required for you to profile your usage. It's also a famous case study which talks about how they have enhanced the customer experience, but at the same time they take minimum data from individual users. And yeah.
No, finish it, because there's one. I'm going to make it this law more complex for the audience, but finish it.
Yeah. Another classic example that just probably for your, for the audience is this act only a point of compliance, or can we look at it differently? But again, similar to Netflix, there is an example of iPhone. iPhone users, iPhone 15 got launched 2.5 years back, right? The classic ad campaign that you would have seen, the hoardings, etc. in iPhone, it was said privacy. Privacy was the entire brand marketing campaign which ran. So they took it to a one notch further, right? So how do you really get the customer trust? Classic example. So you don't need to look at it purely from a compliance mandate, but how do you shift it to a competitive advantage? Is how, just giving classic examples. Yeah, over to you, Kush.
Sorry, I know this is too much for you guys to digest, but one very classic question: can one data fiduciary share the data of a data principal to the other data fiduciary? If no, why not? If yes, what needs to be done to make it happen? Anyone?
Consent.
I think it's all about consent.
There should be a right to privacy.
Consent and what else? Consent is okay, but for a data principal to give consent, what he should know about it?
That it should be used for legitimate purpose.
The consent will be given by the data principal only when he or she really understands for what reason the data fiduciary is passing on my information to the other data fiduciary. If that is not there, yes sir, sorry, you have your hands raised.
If I am required to share my database with a government entity, how would that happen then? Consent. I'm a data fiduciary, right? I have to share my data with a government body.
Yeah.
For what purpose?
I give you my example. I run a school, right? So I have to share student data with government on multiple portals.
Right.
Sure.
Right? So it's there is no, I don't think there's a law about it, but it's a practice. It's been done.
Yeah.
Right? So how would what would I do in such a situation?
Yeah, I can.
So,
Yeah, so basically, if you have to meet any government obligation, statutory norms, regulatory requirement, or for that matter, anything to do with meeting any compliance mandate from the regulator, you can share that across. And especially if it is government organization, there is no restriction of sharing information, personal information.
how about the ADM? Sorry.
Yeah.
How about the ADM, the CBI coming into picture? Will they be required to take a consent?
No, legitimate.
Right?
Yeah, it's the legitimate interest which will come into effect as long as there is a legitimate interest involved, there is a legal basis involved, which is very well established through the regulatory mandate. It sort of addresses that.
But
Does government organizations wholesale come under this act?
Yeah, all government it doesn't include the public sector organizations, the government bodies which include CBI, Ministry of Home Affairs, Ministry of IT, and so on and so on.
I received an email from Startup India government email, and they asked me to sign up for some website where there is some kind of information. When I signed up, I started receiving calls from this one, that one. So a lot of emails.
No,
that's not the government organization
That's
for
not.
sure. They will not do it.
Invest India, Startup India, these are all semi-government organizations or quasi-government organizations which do not qualify under the complete.
Quasis are not, quasi meaning virtual or which deemed to be government organizations. They are not under this purview for sure. Only the entities like the EDs, the CBIs of the world, or the income tax offices, they are definitely excluded. So
Regulators also, for that matter, RBI, SEBI, IRDA, all of them. You have a legitimate interest, and I think your business itself performs that requirement. Right? Only thing that you will have to be cautious about is your agreement with the background verification agency. You will have to ensure that they are a processor for you, right? So they have to ensure that they meet all the DPDPA requirements, and you have all the right to audit them once in a year, so that you get a comfort that they are following all the requirements.
So how to ensure they will be able to follow the requirement?
So that's through, and the first most important thing is the agreement, where you are enforcing that they have to perform. Second is you can.
But capability?
Capability of?
The other party.
That's the obligation of the other party.
Obligation of the other party. So they can
comply. Yeah.
Sir, trying to add in his point, since I am also into same business. So whenever we collect documents from candidates, we also sign the mandate that we are asking for the documents, and it will only be using for this kind of purpose.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So this is what we are trying to do, and that can be done for the agencies.
Consent and the purpose. Okay, I know this.
Another question. Is it even applicable for coaching institutes where they will be sharing the content?
Everywhere.
Any kirana ki dukaan, they have to follow this actually. As long as they are registered in this country, they have to follow.
I will talk when we cover the incident management. So let's say the IndusInd Bank, you must have heard about it, and I can talk about it because we have been into media for all the good news. The data was processed by me and by my team. Am I authorized to do it? After the law come into picture, like 13th November 2025? So everyone has the power to say with the authorization, with the purpose? No. So the companies can go with the investigation. Investigations are excluded as long as that data is used only for the purpose of investigation. We can use it, but yes, it cannot be used for any other purposes. So let's say if I take the mobile phone with the consent of the user, because absolutely it's a personal device, I have to take a consent. And I use that, the photographs or something I use for some other purposes, and beyond the investigation, the problem is there, and then definitely the organization who has hired us is going to be responsible, and definitely, there are clauses that are getting amendment into our terms of businesses, into our engagement letters on how we are going to deal with the data once the investigation is done. So again, a lot of shift that is happening in the service line that I'm dealing with.
Yeah. All right. So I think one important element which we want to touch upon is the bottom part of the slide. Of course, you are well aware of the fine that this can cost 250 plus crores. A fine in case of non-compliance by any data fiduciary. If it involves children's data, it can involve up to 200 crores. But I think let's shift from the penalty side towards the intent of the act actually is to ensure that it gives back the power to all citizens of India. So you and I, it's all of us in this room, right? So we have the power to access, process, or even for that matter, withdraw or consent. Even I can nominate in case of any, incapacitation issues and things like that. I can nominate to, yeah.
One question. Usually we have CCTV everywhere.
Yeah.
So those data is also covered with this?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Any digital data.
That's a digital
videos,
data.
photos. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
See, in most of the offices, in premises, CCTV is there. So what do you do with that? Do you write, like how do you utilize the data and what protections need to be done?
So I think, basically CCTV is part of your monitoring practice of your organization's physical security. Right? You have to ensure that your organization is physically secure for your business processing legitimate interest, very much there. When a new visitor, let's say you getting visitors to your organization where they are exposing themselves to CCTV, I think visitor register is very well maintained. That is where you will have to give them the privacy notice that we will be taking your information, whatever information, written information, plus we will be collecting all the things through CCTV and things like that, which is your normal processing, and take their consent and get it done.
Hi
Yeah.
everyone.
Sorry, go on.
I need to add something that there will be question and answers round after this. I think we can go ahead with the completion of the presentation.
So 420 is the...
Okay.
Okay. As long as the audience is enjoying the session, but anyways, okay.
Did you cover all the 7 principles?
Yeah, we'll come back. Yeah. I think
We will come to the Q&A session. Yes, sir, please.
We are storing data of other country users. Suppose we are not storing the data of India.
So Indians' data getting stored outside, but the data is used for the purpose in India. Definitely, this law is covered. But if some other countries, let's say European countries, citizen data is getting stored in India, we should not be. I mean, that's not that we are covering into this session. That's more about what the GDPR law says. It will not be a part of the DPDP Act.
And coming back to the principles, I think we did not cover a couple of things. Data accuracy is the other one. Data accuracy is wherever your information is there, your information is getting updated. So the quality of information, you have, as a data principle, you have all the right to rectify your data, which is there as number 3 here in your rights of data principles. And it also talks back to the data fiduciary that they have to maintain the accurate information on an ongoing basis. Storage limitation is retention. How long will you store the information, right? Depending on the industry that you are in, depending on the statutory obligation that you may have to adhere to, the law doesn't clearly say that for 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, etc. In whichever industry you belong, let's say for example financial services, general norm is to store it for a period of 8 years. So that depending on the industry that you can fall into. And then there are multiple laws. There is DPDPA, there is RBI requirement, there is the tax law, there is the labor law, all of that, right? Depending on the laws and requirements, you have all these.
Let's suppose if we are having an employee who was working with us before 1 year.
Yeah.
So what do you recommend? Shall we email them that now you are not part of the system, hence we are deleting your data from our side? It should be there on the email from our side, or what do you suggest to do that?
So the point is, do you still need the data or not? Right? You may still need the data to meet certain statutory obligations. If you still need it, you have all the right to keep the data.
Only for the statutory requirement.
But we need to tell them that we are using your data just for this purpose.
A written confirmation, yes, absolutely.
So while you would have, while the person would have joined and exited, etc., right? You would have anyway given that. I don't think there is a specific mail that you will need to send separately. That, yeah, I think in the interest of time, we will have to move a little fast.
I need 15-20 minutes for incident.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So reasonable security practice of safeguards includes all your security privacy principles, your data at rest, data in motion, data encryption, etc. All the security requirements needs to be adhered to. Accountability is establishing the roles, governance, etc. Right from appointing a data protection officer if you are a significant data fiduciary. By the way, we did not touch upon one key topic, which is significant data fiduciary. I just want to reiterate that. We did discuss what is a data fiduciary, but any organization which is processing data in large volumes, personal data in large volumes, qualify as significant data fiduciaries. Any IT, ITS, tech organizations, any banks, NBFCs, fund houses.
Is the large volume defined?
There is no number of records maintained at the moment, but if you feel that you fall into that category, the only 3 requirements are there as per the law, which is to have a very clear-cut data protection officer.
And is there something to reduce data coercion?
Data coercion in terms of the data collection, the type of data that you collect?
In today's environment,
yeah,
there are ways and means in which the governmental and those who are linked to the governmental in executing, they indirectly coerce the people, the individual.
So, yeah, absolutely. That is one of the principles which is called data minimization.
Yeah. So see, 2 things. One is this law is evolving. After 18 months, don't expect the company who is coming under the investigation of DPP to pay a fine of 250 CR or even 1520 CR. This is going to evolve. There are going to be a lot of education, a lot of improvements in the bill that will happen. The second is on the significant data fiduciary. Rohit covered a very valid point on the volume. It also talks about the sensitivity of the data, right? Sensitivity meaning healthcare records. They are very, very important. Now, AIIMS getting under attack and ministers' health records are with the attackers. Absolutely, the pacemaker machine, right? He has the information about it. What can he do with that information? I don't need to even talk about it. So, those industries will fall under significant data fiduciary, and government is going to tell them that you are falling under a part of significant data fiduciary. You have an obligation by the law of the country to have a DPO appointed in your company who will look for the end-to-end DPDP Act.
I think we will straight
move to incident management. So, anything that you want to cover?
No, I think we've broadly covered.
Okay. I don't need this slide. I'm okay. Yeah. Okay. One of the things that I have grown up into this domain for the last 20 years and I have developed into in this country is the digital forensic and incident response. Digital forensic is more on the investigation on the mobile phones, laptop servers, whatever it is. Way back in 2006, Satyam investigation, Walmart, Commonwealth Games, those fall into my category where I did the investigation. BharatPay, in IndusInd Bank. I'm not boasting about it, but I take pride in in doing these investigations. A lot of things have changed now with this act. Definitely in terms of the how to help the clients. पहले ऐसा होता था कि logs नहीं है चलेगा, not a problem. But now this thing has changed. They have an obligation now to have the logs in place, and if you see. DPDP Act says that if any incident happens it has to be reported within 72 hours with the investigation report. And trust me, as an incident responder, I'm telling you, 72 hours is not going to cut for me to do the complete investigation. It's the terabytes of data or gigabytes of data that I have to process to get the meaningful results out of it, and it takes time. But definitely, what the learning is for the audience is that it needs to be reported. But you are well covered into this piece. Why? Because certain, which is the another body, government body, it says by the law of the country, it is 6 hours. Within 6 hours, you have to report to certain. One more thing. Companies have a hesitation. They don't want to report to certain. They want to suppress the case. Why would they do it? Anyone wants to make a wild guess? What else? Reputation, absolutely. It's no brainer for sure. But what else?
No, they may not have data consistency or something.
What else? पेनल्टीज तो कुछ है ही नहीं सर्टेन में. अभी तो डीपीडीपी में डीपीडीपी आया है, बट बिफोर दैट, बिफोर 13th November, there was a hesitation in reporting to even certain. Certain is like they will not say anything. They want to know about the attack because they want to see is there a new attack that is coming in which they need to release an advisory. Like you must have seen in shorts that certain has released an advisory for a Google Chrome or something. How they come to know? By these investigations only. But just a wild guess. 10 seconds only. Investors are not happy. The leadership is worried. So it's a chain thing. And trust me, I have been a part of a very serious board members committee when this incident happens. It's a crisis situation. It's not a good time to be a part of those committees. There are some of the toughest questions which Rohit and I have jointly addressed into the board, and I'm absolutely clear. If someone has to go out, be it your vendor or be it someone into the team, he has to go out. It's not that I'm putting someone into the as a scapegoat, but absolutely everyone has a responsibility to cater. But this law is going to make sure that everyone is doing the job the way it is to be done and the way the data has to be handled. The spam calls and the spam emails that comes in, it's mind-boggling at times, but it is going to change. Okay, back to our bill. 72 hours, definitely it's going to be a problem, but yes, I'm pretty sure this timeline is going to change. 72 hours, they may reduce down and they say, okay, reporting time is this much and investigation report can be given in so much of time.
Just to add on to what you mentioned, 72 hours is very common in GDPR. For folks who are already following GDPR, 72 hours to supervisory authority is already happening. But now, really, how can you meet a 72 hours to data protection board? And is there a linkage to your penalties? That's a bigger question, right? I'm sure you will not complete your investigation within 72 hours. It's just 3 days. How can you really do it? Right? So, but at the same time, to what level you can initiate the investigation? Can you do certain first response? Can you give some initial findings or something of that sort? Or maybe for that matter, at least a comfort to the data protection board that some serious action has already happened.
No, absolutely. One very interesting question, and this comes up again and again. I talk to the clients. The attacker has been into the system for 1.5 years, and it's normal for the attacker to be in the system. And the company gets to know today, have they violated a law of reporting within 6 hours or 72 hours? Will they be fined? Fined? Why that mercy? Why not? But why the companies were not there? Why there was no proactive measures? I'm asking what the SEBI or the RBIs of the world ask these questions when I go to a show cause notice high steering committees.
There's a lot more which needs to be faced before.
Okay, no, absolutely. See, there are 0-day attacks that happen. There are known attacks that happen. What the watchdogs of the country are going to see is what are the proactive measures that the company has taken to detect that attack. And if there are no controls, absolutely it's a problem. But if there are controls and it's a new flavor of attack that is in there, they will definitely, say, okay, you reported within well stipulated time.
But if somebody has a DPO to be assigned in the company, the audit of this kind is part of DPO's responsibility
No,
or external?
CISO. CISO has to, but CISO and DPO have to work in unison to ensure that both of them are covered. Because CISO is also in a problem and DPO is also into a problem, because it's at the end it boils down to data, right? Which is important for both of them. Yeah, go on.
And data protection officer or a representative. If you are a significant data fiduciary, you have to appoint a data protection officer. There is no option. But if you are not, then you have an option to call that person. But you still need that accountability, right? Who's neck to catch, right? Or for lack of a better word, but basically some accountability should be there with the organization, who will be the single point, who will interact with data protection board, the regulators, or for that matter, your customers, all of that.
Okay, so in the interest of time, I'm telling you one very interesting case, and tell me what is that should be done. The answer is already on the screen. One of my clients is a healthcare service provider, and they have their data hosted on a CRM database, which is a third party. Now that third party CRM database got breached. You can search about it. I will not name that CRM service provider. It's all across the globe. There have been a breach that happened. Data got breached. Certain notified my client, and the client said, okay, this schema, this records don't exist into my network. They belong to the CRM, which is hosted on the third party. We reached out to third party is not supporting us. Where's the problem?
The first part, they should have already taken care of when once they let the data out. They also have to have, full responsibility.
How? Because the CRM service provider is not going to give controls of their system to you. How will they?
Call it concept. जो भी है उसके आपस में that agreement is not.
Okay, you saw the answer. So the agreement has to be, no, absolutely, sir. I think you have a very valid point, but the agreement is the only thing which will stand in the law, and it has to be an airtight. Trust me, we are reviewing as a project lot of agreements which needs to be airtight because of this law, because we have to cover our clients from the cyber insurance, from the third party breaches. We have to do it. Chota mota vendor hoga, he will support, but the big vendors, I don't want to name it, they don't support. But yes, if your agreement is airtight and they say that under any breach they have to they have to support during investigation, then you are covered. Rohit, any thoughts that you have that you want to cover?
No, I think.
Okay.
Straight ahead to the.
Okay, no. This one is important in terms of what are the penalties. I think we have spoken about enough of it: financial penalty, regulatory action, legal risk, reputational damage, operational disruption, strategic impact. All those things are there, but to be honest, I'll be very honest, we are doing a lot of gap assessment. We are telling what is the problem at the client side, but even we are evolving, right? As the incident respondent, I have evolved over the last 20 years and I'm still evolving. This domain of technology is mind-boggling. There's too much that goes in from the regulatory side, from the OEM side, and we have to be at our top-notch game to help our clients.
So just to add on to, sorry.
No, go on.
I think the trend that we are observing is we are shifting from the human-based attacks to routine-based attacks. There are routines, AI routines, agents who are attacking. And of course, we are defending through agents as well, but at the same time, so the kind of sophistication that we are in is not some human being sitting the other side and starting to look at the pattern of the vulnerability which is residing in your environment, but an AI agent which is already knowing where are the loopholes. So
yes, I have one very important slide that I want to cover, but Rohit, before we move forward, I think adoption roadmap is what you should be talking about, and I'll answer your question in 30 seconds. Ma'am, first thing first, data minimization, that you have to ensure. The second is the consent management that needs to be there. The third is your legal contracts. If you are taking care of these three things, you are covered like 70 to 75%. Remaining 25% we can discuss offline.
Yeah, so I think there is an entire roadmap for organizations, which we have tried to capture it in a simplified form. The requirement sort of has came into effect in three phases basically. One is which is immediately effective, which is the formation of the board, and what will it constitute, what will they audit, what will they monitor, etc. Second one is which is immediate, right? So the second one, which is 1 year down the line, which is basically a formation of registration of a consent manager. And if a consent manager is there, then an organization like yours will need to appoint a consent manager, get them onboarded, give them the entire access to your APIs and so on and so forth. And 18 months down the line, which is the largest, the longest period, which is the third phase, where you need to really achieve the entire compliance, which is by May 2027. That's the roadmap to compliance. 18 months down the line, you need to be ready to face all of that. So I think, and in the second half of the slide, essentially talks about what is your journey in this entire scheme of things. First is for you to understand where you stand and what's your current state. What kind of data do you hold? What personal information do you have of your customers, of your employees? Do you really need that? How do you cleanse that? Do a data discovery. Understand the data. That's the first step.
Too many of them.
Yeah. Of course. Second is, as sir mentioned, I think a couple of you already alluded to, is to appoint a governance. Who is going to govern the entire scheme of things, right? Is there, you need to appoint a data protection officer. You need to appoint a data protection representative. The entire governance in itself. Third aspect to it is to implement, or after you know where you need to go, right? The roadmap. You need to start fixing the immediate ones, the medium term, the long term ones. Some of your gaps may be to do with certain configuration changes, some changes to systems, some hardening aspects, some basic things, creating a policy, creating and updating your privacy notice, and so on and so forth, which is like easy to do. Some of them would entail investment. You may need to invest in solutions. You may need to classify data. For example, we talked about one of the principles is reasonable security. And we also talked about encryption. Do you start encrypting every data in your organization? Do you need to encrypt? But then the question is, what data will you encrypt? Right?
Encrypted data can be decrypted.
Correct. But why? Encryption will also entail cost and even performance issues.
So let's say there is and I'm working for the insurance client without naming him. Insurance, if I have to pull out the record of a client, right, who has purchased the insurance company and the records are encrypted, will the performance degrade? It will.
Put a data protection or data policy in place first.
Right, and there are solutions around it on how to deal with this, but definitely all the records cannot be encrypted. It has to be in a way where the data is protected, but the records, when they have to pull out, it's shown without any performance.
Correct. And I think the starting point for any thoughts on encryption is not encryption or decryption or tokenization for the matter. It's data classification.
Right.
First, you need to classify the data, right? There will be public data, private data, your restricted data, which is extremely confidential. You wouldn't want to encrypt every damn data within your organization. You want to only encrypt the data which needs to be encrypted. So that's the first exercise. And the next aspect is to build an entire consent management framework, which is 1 year down the line. You need to have a framework, appoint a consent manager from the registered bodies. After that, deploy all your technical safeguards which is required. For example, you need to implement a DLP, a DAM solution, anything which is required within your organization depending on the sector and the industry that you are in, the legal obligations, the regulatory mandates that you need to fulfill, followed by doing regular checks on a continuous basis, right? So you need to know that you've already addressed all of that. Following it, you need to sustain. So this is the broad roadmap to compliance. And I think we have...
Ma'am, I think you were asking on what are the immediate steps. So we are going to, we have like 5 minutes with us, 7 minutes, right? We are going to talk as much as we can because this is the most important of it. I will be talking about the 6th and the 7th one. Rohit, if you can cover the remaining ones, because 6th and 7th are you're talking in length about it.
Yeah, you may want to start with that, that's fine.
Okay, 6th and 7th, definitely most critical aspect, because the biggest challenge that the technology industry is facing right now is, any wild guesses? The biggest challenge that technology industry is facing right now.
Change of technology.
AI was never a problem. Nope. Just a wild guess. Think out of the box.
Basically, something to do with data. What I've heard is that somebody is coding something.
It's the most problematic situation for me as a person who is a geek who has been working for last 20 years. Trust me, I have to build the team in-house. The person who is getting a package of 7 lakhs, he is demanding 35 lakhs if he has some knowledge about incident response. And trust me, the quality is not even matching up with the 10 lakhs. So why I'm talking about the point 6 and 7, and why the regulators are saying to have a DFIR readiness and incident response retainership signed, because when crisis hits the door, right, and you have to be compliant with the DPDP law, with the stringent law, you cannot be deciding who to go with. That's not the time to decide. The time is now with whom you want to sign up a retainership, who will be with you at the time of the crisis situation, who will help you navigate to the safe waters, not only on the technology side, but he will tell you what are the do's and the don'ts on the regulatory side, on the legal side, and on the cyber insurance side. Right? So DFIR readiness companies need it, because when something goes wrong, the logs are missing. The backup data, that's encrypted as well because of the ransomware attack. Why? Because there was no compartmentalization. It was a flat network, and the attacker came into one zone. He did the lateral movement and went straight to the backup and directly hitting the Active Directory. Collapse. So what is really important is to have the DFIR readiness, and we are going like all in on the DFIR readiness, because we really want, it's not about the money, it's not about the business that we want to get in, but that's not even the tertiary goal. What's the primary goal for us is for the clients to have their business running, for the clients to have the data that the investigators need at the time when the crisis is hitting them. And when I say crisis, it's a cyber crisis, and it's worst when the organization has to deal with it. So DFIR readiness, please go for it. It's really important to understand what logs are stored, what policies are there, and if policies are there, are just on the paper or they have been executed on ground as well. People process technology need to be robust enough when it comes to the DFIR. What are the do's and the don'ts when the laptop has to be picked up or a mobile phone has to be forensically imaged to stand in the court? In one of the matters, I'm standing against the income tax office, and I can talk about it. It's not in the public media. It's just that, because I'm doing it and without naming any officer or the case, I can talk about it. Why I'm standing against it? Because the way the digital data was handled was not accurate. And we definitely challenged that this is where the problem is. And when I stand in the court as an expert witness, I don't go in proving about the evidence. I go with proving how the data was forensically preserved. Because if that methodology is fine, no one is going to question on the evidence, because evidence is straightforward. You know what the data entails, and it's going to speak about itself to the judge. But yes, what the judge is going to question about is how the data was forensically preserved. That's $1 million question that as an expert I have to answer in the court. Incident response readiness, absolutely, it becomes really critical at the time when the person is going through a heart attack. You cannot decide which doctor to go for. You need to know which doctor is really worth showing, so that that patient is in safe hands when the crisis is hitting, or when there is a heart attack, right? So similarly is in the digital world, when the organizations are hit by a ransomware or by let's say network attack, you need an incident responder. And incident responder is definitely going to tell you a lot more things that should be done. Let's say and this is a live example that I've gone through, and I told my client to do this and he did not do, but the regulator asked this thing. The minute the show cause notice was given, they asked this question. The data has been breached, the customer data, about 10 million records have been sent out, breached, exfiltrated. What should the client be doing? Should it be informing the customers? Possible? Not possible? Should it be? Should it not? Should just suppress because he only knows about the data? Why should he be informing the customers and why should he not be informing the customers?
I think he should be informing the customers any which way. The way and to the extent is a different story. Yeah. He has to.
Why? Why?
So many factors: financial, reputation, law, compliances.
What else?
There's no further damage, like there.
Absolutely. So, sir, you are absolutely right. There is one thing that hits the door really bad is further damage that gets them. Let's say the person gets the information to the customer ID, or let's say to the e-commerce database where he has the information about what data was, what items were, the orders were placed, and so on and so forth. He can call up the customer that, I'm from this person and I have the details about this, and he can start doing the social engineering. In order to avoid that social engineering and that the customers falling into a trap of that social engineering, it is important that these customers be notified. And I told my client to do it and he didn't do it. But the first thing that the regulators asked is, where's the communication that was sent out? No, there's no communication.
Customer is probably the most important thing for any organization.
Absolutely.
If the customer you take on your side, by being open and factual.
Actually, it's...
mail systems have been... So when the mail system, say Yahoo and other people, when they put out to you, and you're able to go back and restore your thing, or find that उसमें कुछ नहीं हुआ, you feel better about the same.
It's about maintaining transparency and ensuring that you are building a trust.
Trust has to remain.
Yeah. And it is also one of the privacy rights of the data principle that they are updated about any data breach.
Just 10 seconds. Getting up into a cyber crisis or being attacked by a cyber attack is not a bad thing. It's a bad thing in one way, but don't feel yourself incompetent or okay, there's a reputational damage, but trust me, the likes of SolarWinds, the likes of CrowdStrike, the likes of whatever the tool you name it, the Deloittes and the Accentures of the world, which provides consulting, cyber security consulting to the firm, they get trapped into this thing. Is it safe to say that GT Bharat is safe? To an extent, yes, but are we 100% safe? There will always be a zero-day vulnerability that will come into picture. I cannot take the guarantee of it, but yes, to the extent possible, whatever the best controls we can put in, we have those controls. But despite that, there is always a delta that is left out, that there may be a possibility of the cyber attack coming into picture. So it's okay, but we need to evolve. We need to learn from the others who have been a victim of these attacks. That's my closing remarks. But
yeah, no, I think absolutely. Thanks, Kush. I think we may want to take one or two more questions, but we won't even take it offline as well, in the interest of time. But thank you so much. You've been a brilliant.
Thanks for patiently listening to us. The idea was not to make you fear, but to educate every one of you. Thank you so much, and have a great evening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wait.
We now would like to have you all join us for the tea and networking break, and the next session will resume at 4:40. Moving forward, now there's an introduction to the new labor code. We now invite our panelist, Ms. Pooja Nair, Chair TiE Women, Founder and Principal Consultant, Pratham HR and Legal Solution. She is an HR and legal consultant with extensive expertise in manpower hiring solutions, HR policy advisory, and statutory compliance. She supports organizations in building robust HR frameworks and compliance system with a focus on people, strategy and governance. Please welcome Ms. Pooja Nair on the stage. Next, now we invite our speaker, Mr. Akhil Channa, partner and leader, Global People Solutions, Grant Thornton. He is a partner and leader with over 16 years of experience in business tax, cross-border taxation, and employee-related matters spanning tax, social security, and labor laws. He specializes in taxation, compensation, structuring, and international mobility. Mr. Akhil is actively involved in advising organizations on the implementation of social security reforms and new labor codes and is a regular speaker at ICAI, CII and SOCHAM forums. Can we have a round warm of applause for our both speakers? Next, Mr. Deepak Bhardwaj, Associate Director, Global People Solutions, Grant Thornton. He is having an experience with over 10 years of experience in labor, industrial and human resource laws. He advises organizations across manufacturing and service sectors on compliance, due diligence and workforce matters. Mr. Deepak has an extensive experience in labor law reviews, vendor compliance assessments and board level advisory and is an associate member of the Institute of Company Secretaries of India and law graduate. Now, moving over, our last panelist, Mr. Sandeep Mehta is a chartered accountant with over 24 years of professional experience in leading accounting and consulting firms. He is also a CPA and holds a postgraduate certification in business management from XLRI, Jamshedpur, along with advanced leadership and mentor accreditations. With strong cross-border experience, Sandeep has high-impact professional assignments across industries and is actively engaged in leadership development, mentoring, and promoting sound governance practices. Now, moving forward, can we have all the question and answers to be answered at the end of the panel discussion? And moving forward, now we will be starting with the presentation by Ms. Pooja Nair.
We had a very wonderful session from both Rohit and Khushi on the DPDP Act. Now the much awaited topic that we all want to hear is the new labor codes which have been implemented from 21st November 2025. A lot of ambiguity, a lot of apprehensions about and speculations around what really is the impact that is going to be there on all the industries with respect to the new labor code being implemented. So in the beginning, I just want to ask a couple of questions to you. Do you think how many of you were really happy with the existing labor codes? How many of you were thinking that, ठीक है, जो चल रहा है, जो है हमारे पास, that's okay, we are happy with it? You were happy? Okay. It's a dangerous question. Okay. Some nod, something. Okay, चल रहा था, ठीक है, it was going on. Was that the general? You were comfortable with it. Good or bad is not something you were looking at, but yes, comfortable, understandable and doing it. Okay. How many of you are really fearing this new labor code? How many of you think that this is really going to bring some, I would say, some major revolutionary changes in the organization, this thing? Okay. I have a lot of hands coming up.
Not fearing, but we will be proactive. We want to know about what are the drawbacks and what are the overcomes and what are the positive responses.
Okay, you think there is still time to be proactive because the codes have already been implemented almost a month back now, let's take it. I'm going to throw you certain data points for all of you to understand. Let's understand what is our current Indian workforce market. 2017-18, we were at 47.5 crores. That was the Indian statistics. Right now, we are somewhere close to 65 crores as per the data 23-24. Let's have some very blunt truth. 88% of the Indian workforce has nothing well planned for their retirement. There is nothing planned from their end. They do not know we're working in a private sector or we're working in a sector where post-retirement we're not going to have any social security benefits. So 88% Indians retire without a sufficient pension plan. Okay. Female labor workforce has increased from 23% to almost 41.7%. Not exactly double, but yes, the diversity impact can be visibly seen with a lot of females joining the workforce. The unorganized sector still accounts for 90% of the workforce. That's something startling. 90% is the unorganized sector. The government has registered about 31 crore workers on the eShram portal. eShram portal is already there, so government has already started registering these people. And of course, Indian labor laws has a very, very fragmented history. Most of the laws, they came into existence during the British era or over last few years, but nothing really very, very concrete. So we had 29 separate federal labor laws originating in 1930s. And the first question was exactly about it. How many of us are comfortable with the existing labor laws? And people said, yeah, we're okay with it. But don't you think it was high time for all of us to really move on and see what does the new labor codes bring to us? Another big thing, another big change in the workforce industry, the gig and the platform workers. How many of us are aware of this gig and platform workers? Okay, I have few hands coming up.
Deliveries and all that, gig jobs, freelancing jobs.
Okay. So this new labor code, why I'm mentioning gig and platform workers, this is going to have a major impact on these workforce that is existing, now come into existence. Firstly, they have been legally recognized that yes, there is a certain category of workforce which falls under gig and platform workers. Okay, India has about 1 crore gig workers in 24-25, forming a significant informal workforce segment. Estimate projects 2.35 crore by 2030, that's next 5 years. And 6.2 crores by 2047. So that's the graph by which the gig workers and the platform workers, their number is going to increase in our industry. Okay, so it was high time that since we are seeing that there is such a sharp growth of these kind of workforce in the Indian market, it was important to legally recognize them, accept them, and of course make certain laws to ensure their safety and security too. Okay, what were the core objectives of the reform? 29 fragmented labor laws with so much of overlapping information, same definitions having a different meaning under one code and a different meaning under, for example, wages. It was defined differently for different laws. Okay, similarly, a workman, an employee, all these were defined differently under different wages. So it was important for us to get one harmonized definition. Standard compliance was the need of the hour. Of course, extend social security to more and more people. To extend, the outreach should be much more, and the balance ease of doing the business and worker protection. So these were the larger objectives for this entire reform. So 29 labor codes built into 4 major ones. The first one was Code on Wages, which came in 2019. Both my friends from GT, they will deep dive into the nitty-gritties of what these codes are all about. However, just for as a capsule thing, the biggest thing is the review in the CTC, the cost to company and salary structure, where it says that the wages cannot be more than 50% of the total CTC. Alright, so the variable part, normally the wages, the basic thing was less than 50. In case it is more than 50, as in your variable part, it has to be added back to your wages. That is one major change that has happened. More understanding on this thing by Akhil. Second is the statutory cost basis for PF, ESI and gratuity likely to change as wage-based shift. Do you think any impact with the wage structure? We'll ask, take questions a little later, sir, because... Okay, all right. No, I was just asking on the impact. Were you answering that? I thought you were asking a question. All right. हाँ हमें देना पड़ेगा. That's what we think. See, again, there are little grey areas, the gig and the platform workers in terms of social security and their incentive structure or the salary structure. The government is still working on it. There is a lot of things that they have hold back, the government, because they also understand, even though they are taking them under their purview, but they are not very clear on how they will put a structure to their entire these incentives or whatever. Okay, and my question to everybody was that, do you think that the change in this salary structure, wage structure, will have any impact on the social security thing? You very rightly pointed out, post-COVID, there has been a change in the mindset that people want to, rather than saving money, they are more into spending money. You know, let's have more take home, let's spend it on our requirements, daily needs. But then right now, again, as very clearly mentioned out, that the new wage structure will have an impact on your take-home salary, which is going to considerably get reduced. So employee sentiment somewhere is not very, I would say they're not very positive about the fact that our, see, what comes later as a saving is किसने देखा है ना. तो आज देखते हैं आज मेरा टेक होम क्या है, because my daily expenses are increasing every day because of inflation. The inflation rate is so high right now that I cannot just control my expenses. And of course then the adjusting the payroll time, 7th should be the date for this thing. Social Security Code is another thing where of course we are talking about wage definition expands eligibility for PF and ESI. The gratuity thing is one big thing again coming in, 5 year, which was to 1 year. But then there is again a very normal misconception. People are taking FTE as full-time employees, whereas that is fixed-term employment. Fixed-term employees, that's what it is. I think we'll talk about fixed-term employees, the details of it. Should I just skip that part or probably?
No, it's okay, whatever. We'll skip it if you cover it.
Okay. No, because I've been given strict instructions, do not deep dive into it, let my friends cover it. So I'm just quickly. Okay, formal recognition of gig and platform workers is another thing which we just spoke about. Employer implications, review engagement, ensure correct gratuity calculations is something coming in. Then we have the occupational safety, health and working condition code, single framework for safer workplaces, pan-India single license for registration, uniform safety is another thing. Women have been allowed to work in night shift with all those security measures and everything. That has also come under it. Employer obligations in terms of medical health checkup for any employees who's above 40 years of age, that has become mandatory. So you have to see what is the age gap that you want to hire in your companies now. What is the age bracket? Because 40 years plus employees will have to, the employer will have to ensure a mandatory health checkup for those people. Industrial relation code is again something where the employer implications have increased, greater hiring flexibility vis-a-vis the fixed term contracts. The documentation part has become very easy. Everything is going to come on to a single window, a single license, everything that way. The dispute resolution is going to, so this is going to be very, very beneficial for both the employer and the employee end. Okay, should industry wait for state policies or implement the new labor code? A lot of people were asking. Are you guys waiting for the, still waiting for something?
Are these going to be different state policies?
Haryana itself has rules.
See, labor laws is a matter of both central and state list, right? We see labor laws as both sides. So what do you think? Should we still wait for it? The answer is there.
Yeah, of course, they will be the actually inspecting agencies or whatever. They will be looking for the we are compliant or compliant.
See, Punjab, if we take as an state, it has still not come up with its orders. The state policies, rules have not come in. For example, the national floor wages right now in 2019 was set as 178 rupees per day. That was the national floor wage. So in any case, the state, this thing will not go below it. It will be something above it only. So what do you think? Should we still wait for it or should we go ahead with this implementation of the new labor code?
I think we should wait. Otherwise, because they will be the compliant agencies. We have to show them. Otherwise, in terms of compliance,
it is already implemented on 21st.
Someone from that side, anyone who wants to add? Okay, so see, all the industry leaders are saying that we are not going to wait any further in terms of implementation of the new labor code. We should just quickly start off with it. Since the central government has already notified it, alright, there's no point waiting. The legal obligations have already started. So what you must implement immediately, first is your 50% wage code. That thing has to be immediately implemented. Your gratuity for fixed term employees, that is another thing that you have. It has to be calculated on pro rata basis because after the completion of the 1 year, every employee is, the fixed term employees are eligible for gratuity. So that will be calculated. Full settlement in 2 days. That's another thing which I think you should quickly implement. You should not wait for any. The state policies will have no effect on this full settlement in 2 days thing. The wage structure I don't think will have any this thing. The gratuity calculation will not have. Of course that's it. And the appointment letters for everyone, every employee in your organization. So these are some very, very basic things which I think you should not even wait and quickly start off because otherwise there will be a lot of legal implications on it.
Fixed term means contractors.
So fixed term employees are
contractors, not the regular employees.
No, they are not the. You have an ongoing IT project going on, so you hire them for that project for a certain specific period, and those are the fixed term employees. Okay, what you can wait for is, of course, again it says national floor wage hai, lekin state ka wo nahi hai. So that is again it's a contradiction, but I think you should start with this thing. Maintenance of canteens and crèches, 50 plus people, if employees are there, you have to have those crèches there in your organization. And yeah, yes, you have to have 50 plus employees, you need to have crèche facility. Female employees hoenge to.
That may depend upon the kind of industry you're having.
The kind of? For example, which industry are you thinking is out of the preview of this thing?
If you'll be having from a manufacturing setup, then you need to implement those.
The manufacturing setup does come under this preview?
Obviously. What about the shop and establishment and this? So they need to maintain cover all those things?
I think we need to cover it, no? Yes, we need to cover it. Yeah. Okay, alright. So the risk of the wait and see approach is of course the retrospective liability because it's already implemented. The financial shock, probably if you start restructuring your wages now, not now, later on, you will still see a lot of financial burden coming onto you. And of course legal disputes, in case you've not settled employee leaving the company, if you've not done their F&F in 2 days, there might be some legal disputes that might come in. So these are just couple of risks that are with the wait and watch approach if you are following it. So better to implement these things rather than to do it. So a practical 5-step action checklist. Last one please. Audit employee categories. What are the kind of employees you've hired in your organization? Rework on their CTC and the payroll rules according to them. Update your policies. HR policies need to be updated. The documentation part needs to be again seen in terms of the appointment letters that you are giving. Strengthen the safety and welfare frameworks. That again has to be quickly looked at. And of course, you have to plan for the further changes that are going to happen. Yeah, that's the end of it. So I'll now ask, yeah, that's the end of it, and probably Mr. Deepak will take it up or Mr. Akhil will take it. Yeah. That's all from my end. Thank you.
By the time he's putting up the presentation, when I was listening to my fellow panelist, Ms. Pooja, I was getting a feeling that my presentation leaked to nahi ho gayi hai, because she was covering all the things which I have also have in my presentation. So, but there are many points of discussion. We can spend the entire 3-4 hours discussing a lot of points, a lot of clarity I think people are looking for, and we'll try to justify whatever time has been given to us, 45 minutes, to give you the entire perspective. And I think before that, I'll just give you, I'll narrate one story. I recently had a discussion with Joint Labour Secretary Dr. Mahinder Kumar. I think 21st evening we got a date of notification. During the entire weekend, there are like 100 clients called me. How what to do? We were not expecting this. Out of the blue, this has come suddenly and all. And they started giving the inputs, discussion, everything happened. And I think we got an appointment with Ministry on 25th of November. And the first point I put in front of the Ministry that, sir, just out of the haste and without intimating, informing anyone, and without having any discussion on this, you just come out with a date out of the blue. He said, Akhil ji, आप एक बात बताइए कि कितने साल हो गए इस law को public domain में, and when the parliament passes and even the president gave an approval. I think 2020, the law, all the 4 courts were passed by the parliament, and the law, central law, was in public domain. I think they said we've given 5 years, and now we cannot wait more. There's a winter session which is going to start, and we want to come out with this. And this law is very much effective from 21st of November. A lot of people have this misconception that we are waiting for the central rules. I'll give you a background of that also. Then we came with a discussion in front of the ministry that there are a lot of clarifications, industry, chambers, clients have been asking you in the last 5 years. But nothing has come, whether it's on grandfathering of gratuity, performance bonus, ESOP incentive to be a part of wages, or whatever, X and Y. There are many. They said, we agree, we've taken your point. That's why we are going to release central rules and FAQs, and they've shown me those FAQs and central rules drafted in front of them. There are few sections against which rules are required, and I think they will be coming anytime sooner in the public domain. Will be available for public discussion for 45 days, and after that, it will be notified. And by the time everything will be notified, it's 1st of April. So we are thinking 1st of April, but not for the entire sections. There are sections for which there are no rules required. They are immediately applicable. The clarifications are coming. We have seen ESIC notification coming in. We have seen some clarifications coming in. The government is working on that direction. And very next day, 26th, morning, Vandana, who's the Labour Secretary, really gave an interview to Economic Times saying the same thing. So there are few sections against which some clarification, some methodology, or few things will be coming in. But if you ask me, this law is very much applicable. And as Ma'am Pooja said, it's a concurrent law. Central and state has to adopt this. If the central has come out with something, some provision, the state has to either adopt it as is or come out with a beneficial provision. Like for a minimum floor wage. Right now, at a central level, minimum floor wage under the new codes is not notified. Once it comes, whatever central will give, the state has to give better than that. Because right now, if you see, there's a lot of disparity. If a same skill set of person working in Delhi getting 20,000, but in Bihar or Jharkhand getting 8,000, 10,000. So that disparity will go away. I will not, spend much time on this backdrop and all, because I think everyone knows that these 4 codes are there. There are 29 acts which are getting subsumed, and labor law is not about these 29 acts. It's beyond that. It's a first step which government has taken. These are all central acts. I think we have to be careful in reading that. These are all central laws which are getting subsumed, repealed, and merged into these 4 codes. And you know, as any other big reform which has happened in this country, whether it's GST or you know Companies Act 2013, everything take its own time to get evolved. GST is still evolving. There are a lot of changes every day. You know, government is coming out. Similarly, when the Companies Act 2013 came in, getting away with from Companies Act 1956 took 2, 3, 4 years. You know, and similarly here also, there's a lot of discussion will happen. But I think 95% of the states have given a thumbs up to it. Most of the clients, wherever we're going, discussing whether it's a manufacturing setup, it's a service sector, or you know Zomato, Swiggy of the world, where the hit is big because 1 or 2% of the annual turnover will go into a gig welfare fund, which is a big move. And you know, as Ma'am was saying, we are out of you know 190 plus countries, we are the 15th country who has come out with something for the gig workers. None of the country has formalized it, and I think it's a very welcome step because the way things are changing, evolving, the government is thinking in those directions. And this is a reason because gig workers, platform workers has been in the last 5, 6, 10 years we've seen that kind of workforce getting increased. The government is working in that direction. So, which we discussed this. And now I think I want to spend 5 minutes here because a lot of clients, a lot of people have misconception. That whatever remuneration we are giving to the employee, 50% of that is the wages. They just multiply, you know, 50%, and they feel that we have to provide for gratuity, all the retirees for PF, leave encashment, and all on that. How many of you have this? You know, do you feel this is right, or there is another way of arriving at the wages? I think none of you has raised their hand, so it means that you have some bit of right interpretation of this, because what the law says, whatever remuneration you are, like we use CTC in our normal discussion, and whenever we issuing an offer letter or employment letter, we use the word CTC. So whatever CTC you've agreed with your employee is wages. Less, there are 11 specified exclusions which are clearly laid down. If those are a part of your structure, that will be allowed as an exclusion, but that is capped to 50%. Exclusions cannot be more than 50%. So which means if you agreed 10 lakh as a CTC with your employee, and out of that 10 lakh, some portion goes into basic, some portion goes into HRA, which is very common practice, and balance goes into some flexible components and special allowance for that matter. So whatever exclusions specified here will be allowed to be excluded, and then wages will be arrived at. Even if you're giving any benefit in kind, like car lease, many companies offer car lease to their employees. 15% of the wages against that benefit will be added back. So from there, government comes out a clear interpretation of this. I know in India, when these kind of things comes, people start taking an interpretation जो उनके benefit में होता है, and taking near advantage of the law. But I'll take you back. In 2019, there was a Supreme Court ruling. There also, I think the discussion has happened in detail. That Supreme Court has clarified what should be included on salary for the purpose of PF. The meaning of salary, they clearly laid down that formula. And taking that reference under the new labor code, this has been brought in. Obviously, there are many questions which people has, especially on the how the perquisites will be valued, because in tax we have the valuation rules, but otherwise we don't have any valuation rules. In how performance bonus, because they've just excluded regular bonus under law, but not forming part of the remuneration. So whatever statutory bonus you committed to your employees, that will be excluded. But performance bonus, variable, ESOP, everything, they've been silent. Then whether we have to take it monthly or annually, these are the things which industry has been asking. I'm myself is a chairman in Indian American Chamber of Commerce. We've gone to the ministry many times. I'm a part of the committee for CI also. Today also, when I was here, there was a call discussion happening on this. But still, there's some kind of clarity which is required, and I believe government is aware of this, and they will come out with FAQs very soon. Let me, take you through an illustration. So under this, you're able to read this? No. So under this illustration, it's 25,000 is a CTC, monthly CTC, which we have agreed. Basic is 8,000, 4,000 is HRA, special allowance is 6,000, conveyance is 2,000, 3,000 is overtime and commission is 2,000. Can anyone tell me what all to be, how much is the exclusion and how we will arrive at the wages?
50% should be basic.
Any more guesses? I think we've discussed about the specified exclusions in the preceding slide. As per you, I think HRA was mentioned there clearly. Overtime was mentioned there. Conveyance was mentioned there, and so commission as well. So if we do this, it's 11,000, and wages is 14,000, on which you have to provide for PF, leave encashment, gratuity, maternity benefit, ESI, everything going forward. Right now, what we are doing only on basic, we are providing for gratuity. So that's a big impact on the P&L of each and every one sitting here in the room. Either you are an entrepreneur, you are a CFO, you are a CHRO, but this will impact the P&L of your company for sure. And why 11,000 is allowed? Because 11,000 is less than 50% of 25,000. Same example, but we've increased the amount. Now, as per you, what will be the wages? Yeah. So, sir, what we've discussed the definition of wages, okay? And there are certain exclusions which are specified. 11 exclusions hai. We've discussed on that. Now we have this as a remuneration which we don't take the pictures. You will get the presentation. Don't worry, you will get the presentation. So now we have 25,000 as a total remuneration. So to start with, as per the definition, what is the wages? Wages is 25,000. Less specified exclusions. And now exclusions is HRA is one of the components which is allowed to be excluded. Conveyance, overtime and commission. We've totaled it. How much is the total? Is 11,000, which is less than 50% of 25,000. So your wages is 25,000 minus 11,000. Okay. Now we go to the next example. Go to the second scenario on the right side. Can you move the presentation? Yeah. Same example. I think we've increased some amounts. Now please answer the question. $9,000 will be the wages, right? As per you. So 16,000 as per you, right?
12,000.
Someone is saying 60,000 as the wages. Someone is saying 13,000 as the wages, right? 12,000 is the wages.
12,000.
No, it's 12,500 because exclusion is 13,000, which is more than 50% of 25,000. So 5% will be added back as a deemed wages. That's how it should be looked into. I think another example, but we can skip it. It's more detailed. We've understood the concept. I'm not taking this. Yeah. Now I'll ask Deepak to come and talk to you about what all key impact areas in all the 4 codes. But before handing over to him, I think there are many things which people need clarity. But as I said, every law takes its own shape and keep evolving. And we have a lot of questions which we've discussed with the ministry. We've done a webinar. I will share that recording of the webinar also, where the ministry has given very clear answer. Because a lot of people have this this misconception. Now it's effective 21st of November. Can we restructure our salary? What will be how the grandfathering? And yesterday, there's a meeting which Institute of Chartered Accountants of India also has done to see the impact on the books, because how many of you have sitting in this room is a listed company? you have any quarter closing, right? December you have to provide for the provision and all. So institute is coming out with a clarification very soon. I know the answer because one of my partners is a part of that committee where they had a discussion yesterday. So how the cost should be factored in, whether it has to be retrospective, it will be a past cost, how it should be, in the books to be factored in. So everything will be coming out. So I think the ministry is working day in day out to give more clarification support, and they've been very listening. If you have any specific questions, anything to be, we can discuss after this session is over. Myself will take it to ministry, because with Indian American Chamber of Commerce, we are planning another webinar with Bandra Madam to be there. So I'll hand it over to Deepak now. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to thank everyone for your patience listening. And I know the subject is so deep that even one day will not enough for us to make those comparisons. But I'll try my best to take you through a journey where we will be highlighting few of the key impact areas which are of importance. And I'll try to give you a comparative analysis, not just to tell you what all are the changes, but what is the current position also in respect of the existing laws. Right. So to begin with, how many of you have actually gone through the provisions of the law? Right. So, because this would help us to understand, the nature of the audience, and accordingly we'll summarize our presentation. Right. So I'll start with the widened coverage. The biggest reform what we see under Labour Code is the coverage. I'll give you an example in terms of payment of minimum wages. If for that example, if you take minimum wages presently is considered or is applicable on employees which are reflecting under the scheduled employments. But similarly, payment of wages, again, if we take an example, is applicable to employees where they have a salary threshold of 24,000 or more. Now, those exceptions or applicability thresholds are now done away, which clearly shows that now it will be applicable to each and every employee. I'll come to that employee definition also, but the biggest key impact area we see, it's its wider applicability to all of the organization mostly. Similarly, I think ma'am has already discussed in respect of national floor wages. Even today we have national floor wage, as was covered by her, that but that is not mandatory in nature. Government releases those national floor wage benchmark, but that is not mandatory on the states. But post Labour Codes, what will be the situation? Government surely will be coming up with a national floor wage benchmark, but now that will become mandatory in nature. Meaning thereby, states need to align their minimum wages, because obviously they will be coming up with their notification, considering it is we are into a concurrent state. This subject is concurrent in nature, therefore they will be surely coming up with their notification, but they need to align their minimum wages in a way that it cannot go below the national floor wage benchmark. So what will happen with a state like where they already have something above? For example, if we take an example, Delhi is already 21,000, but if the national floor wage benchmark is 19,000. So any guesses what will be the real scenario in that case? Whether they can reduce that to 19,000 because they have to meet the criteria of national floor wage benchmark, or for a state like Bihar, as was mentioned by Akhil sir, that if in case a state like Bihar comes up with their wage notification and understanding that national floor wage benchmark is already 19,000. So there is a different scenario. So for a state like Delhi, if they are already above the national floor wage bank, as per the provision, they cannot come back. They have to be there where they are. But for the state like Bihar or Jharkhand, where their existing minimum wages is less than what the national floor wage benchmark would be, they have to revise their minimum wages. So which will be a huge cash inflow or outflow impact on the organization. For example, if I have my presence in Bihar or Chhattisgarh for that matter, I need to realign my minimum wages basis the national floor wage benchmark, because it will neither be the lowest one nor the highest one. So it will be somewhere in average. So considering that average, मुझे वो wages realign करना ही पड़ेगा. So nobody understanding कि उसका भी huge impact आने वाला है organization पे where they have multiple state presence. Then again, timeline of wages. Even today we have timeline where we have 1,000+ manpower के लिए हमारा 10 का succeeding month का timeline है, and below that we have a timeline of 7th. Now they have done away with those multiple exceptions. Now they have given one timeline which is 7th. This is not the interesting point. Interesting point here is that now that this timeline of wages is applicable to contractors also. Why I'm saying so? Because if you carefully see the definition of employees, it includes contractors also. So now again a point of thinking that you need to realign your policies, agreement, processes in a way that you release your payments to contractors so that they are in a position to make those payments well before or on the date which is there in the law. So ये realignment again what we see today basis our experience that 2-2 महीने का credit रहता है and contractor जो है उनका payment 2-2 महीने तक नहीं हो पा रहा है. So this is a big relief for the contractual workers in terms of disbursing those payments to the contractual workers. I think we have already covered this national floor wage and minimum wage concept. Right. I've already discussed this part in respect of concept of scheduled employment. अब वो नहीं है existence में. Similarly, timeline for wages within 2 days. Mark my word, this is not full and final payment. As people have been interpreting, it is not full and final payment. What the law says that you need to disperse the wages part at least within 2 working days. ये provision you will be surprised to know even today existing, but enforcement is very poor. Therefore, by capturing that in labor codes, they have made it, they have given it an importance which everybody is talking about. अब 2 दिन का timeline हो गया, ये पहले भी था. Now what about the other retirers? But again, mark my words, appropriate governments are authorized to make change into these timelines. So they may come up with a change in a date. For example, वो आपको 15 दिन, 30 दिन, 45 days का timeline दे सकते हैं. So this is a state subject again, subject to state notification. So you need to see how the states will be coming up in respect of these provisions.
Deepak, 1 minute. Yeah. So I think what Deepak is trying to say, people are taking is an interpretation that जिस दिन last working day है, उसके 2 दिन में आपको सब कुछ gratuity, everything has to be disbursed. No. It's about only wages or leave encashment, and there's a difference how it has to be disbursed between worker or employees. But gratuity or other retirements can wait. Okay, so this law is very much there in existence today also. And as Deepak mentioned that appropriate state government might come with relaxation on this, but I think this is doable. I can agree. जब गवर्नमेंट इसको बना रही थी तो उन्होंने कभी नहीं सोचा था कोविड आ जाएगा और हाइब्रिड वर्किंग विल इंक्रीज एंड गेटिंग एसेट्स फ्रॉम द एम्प्लॉय इज अ टास्क. लास्ट डे होता है एसेट्स और सारा कुछ एम्प्लॉय हैज टू सबमिट टू द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. So they should have taken that into consideration, but I think it's been 20 years they've been working on this, and I think some relaxation will come. But anyways, it's a full and final settlement of only wages, which has to be done, right, Deepak?
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. The major change in terms of creating those timelines is that earlier the concept of resignation was not part of those timelines. So now what they've done with labor codes, they have also included the concept of resignation also. In cases of resignation, again this would apply now. Earlier that was not the case. So resignation cases up now will be eligible to get those payments within 2 days. Wages part especially. And जिनके लिए as mentioned by Akhil sir that comes with the statutory timelines, for example gratuity, will hold their ground and will be released accordingly. Now important point is employer and worker wider ambit. So I'll take a minute on this particular definition because what we understand that employee and worker sometimes are same and we are using this concept interchangeably. But if you see worker carefully, it is nothing but a subset of employee definition. And again, if you see carefully, there are few contradictions even today exist, nobody is talking about. Can anybody give that example? Who all are workers, who all are employees? How do you classify a worker from an employee? So I'll give you a hint. Just when you go back, just have a look at it, the law and then review at your end. Where is semi-skilled appearing? The semi-skilled category is neither appearing in worker nor as at interjecting point, but falling into your employee definition. I think nobody is discussing about that. So when the government will be coming up with their minimum wage notification, and if they notify wages for semi-skilled, by default those provisions will apply to, and by this definition, obviously they are employees, and if they notify wages by provision of code on wages, overtime provision will applicable on them. So लोग बोल रहे हो एम्प्लॉइज पे एप्लीकेबल नहीं है, एम्प्लॉय पे एप्लीकेबल हो सकता है. अगर आप कोड ऑन वेजेस के प्रोविजन केयरफुली पढ़ेंगे, यू विल सी नोटिफाइड मिनिमम ओवरटाइम वेजेस उन पे एप्लीकेबल होगा जिनके लिए मिनिमम वेजेस नोटिफाई होगा. तो अगर मेरा मिनिमम वेजेस नोटिफाई हो गया एज सेमी स्किल्ड, तो आई विल बी एलिजिबल फॉर ओवर टाइम. So again, very interesting point, nobody is discussing, but relevant point in terms of making those comparison between worker and employee. Another important point in terms of start bonus. What we today see that start bonus is a limit which is set up by government, which is for eligibility we see a 21,000 threshold has been given in the law. Even today it is 21,000, but what will be the scenario post labor codes enforcement? That has not been notified. It will not be notified through rules. Why? Because that authority is with the state governments. So appropriate government will come up with their notification. Ab scenario ye hoga कि there could be a scenario where every state will have their own eligibility threshold and calculation mechanism, which was not the case as on today. So ye comparative analysis why I'm trying to give you, because if we are reading a subject we should know from where it started and where we are on today. So ये स्टार्ट बोनस का चेंज बहुत बड़ा चेंज है. हर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में फाइंड इट डिफिकल्ट टू अलाइन विद द स्टेट प्रोविजन, देयरफॉर दे नीड टू प्लान अकॉर्डिंगली कि हमारा स्टेट का नोटिफिकेशन एज ऑन टुडे क्या हो सकता है. एज वाज मेंशन्ड बाय माय सीनियर कॉलीग इन द बिगिनिंग दैट वी हैव सेविंग क्लॉजेस गिवन इन द कोड्स इटसेल्फ, which as per constitutional framework allows you to have the enforcement even on 21st November. So act is very much enforced till that time those existing provisions are not in contradiction. So जहां पे आपके existing provisions contradict नहीं कर रहे courts के provision को, till that time आप existing provisions को apply कर सकते हो in respect of courts implementation. So question about whether those codes are effective or not has no value, because that those are very much value as per the constitutional framework of the country itself. I think I've already covered that now, because now employee definition includes contractor. So it becomes the statutory bonus. We have a special rule in the code itself, draft rule, where it says it will become the responsibility of the employer, which includes contractor as well. Obviously, in case of its failure, it will lie upon the principal employer, but now primary responsibility again is with contractor. So this was all in respect of code on wages. I'll take you through the provisions of code on social security where they have the large impact. Starting with the fixed term employment. Does anybody know existing provision around fixed term employees, or is it a new concept which just came up with labor codes enforcement? Any idea? Any guess idea? So I'll tell you, FT concept नया concept नहीं है, ये बहुत पुराना concept है. Till 2018 it was restricted to only apparel industry, but with the notification in 2018 that was extended to other industry sectors as well. तो FTs कहना कि आज का concept है not correct. Secondly, उसमें उस time भी there were provisions which were clearly mentioning that all benefits, including statutory benefits, need to be given to your fixed term employees. That is one. Second, it was also given that you cannot convert your regular employees to your fixed term employees. Why? I leave it to you, because that is related to industrial dispute. You please go back and check why NFTs are not allowed to be replaced with your permanent manpower. A point of thinking for all of you. But moving ahead, I think FTs are those persons appointed by the company which has an end date to their contract. So anybody who is hired for a specific period is termed to be as FTs. But again, in labor codes what they have done, they have made it more specifically. Gratuity was, अगर आप literal interpretation देखेंगे तो gratuity was पहले भी applicable थी, but people were not aware. Implementation was zero. But now they have made it mandatory that any fixed term employee having a tenure of 1 year or more will be eligible to receive gratuity. Why they have done so? Any guess? Again, because they do not want to motivate you to have FTs in replacement of your permanent employees. Again, a point of thinking, why so? I leave it to your wisdom. Nothing but FT in details. I wanted to explain this in detail, what all provisions related to FTs, but I think I have covered that well.
So on limitation period, I just want to tell you it's a big relief, because today there is no limitation period. Even if they have to open a 7A for the PF or go into any kind of assessment and all proceedings, but they have a right to go back to 30 years, 40 years, and we have seen it. And it's a big, because Companies Act says that you have to maintain the records for 8 years. Tax में बोलते हैं 6 साल. There was no limitation period in the PF, and the company doesn't have a record, but then they will come out with random demands and all, which is a big relief, I must tell you. And I think gratuity we've already covered. We will cover more in detail because, as I said, it will have a huge impact on the PF. We've seen in the example. Earlier it was only 8,000 as a base salary we used to consider, but now it's a large on wages, and wages cannot be less than 12,500. So 4,500 ka delta to wahin pe aa gaya, on which you have to provide for the gratuity. And today, if someone leaves the organization, you have to provide pay him a gratuity on last non wages for last 10 years. But हमने 21 नवंबर से पहले provision बनाया हुआ है सिर्फ salary के basis पे. So it's a huge gap which grandfathering is not allowed by the government. So that's we have to look into. Even as I said, Institute of Chartered Accountant met yesterday and they're coming out with a guidance how this accounting implication has to be looked into. But if you ask me, do you feel that grandfathering will come? I don't think so, because it's been 5 years. Everyone has gone to the ministry to come out with something of that sort, but they have not come with any clarification. Neither they are interested, because in our webinar also we asked this question and they give a very candid answer to it. So it looks like that you have to provide for that liability by 31st of December if you are a listed company, or by 31st of March if you are not listed, and you have to pay the people as per the last one wages.
Right. Thank you, sir, for the clarification. So I'll touch upon few more points which relates to women representation in labor codes itself. So I'll briefly touch upon the working hours entitlement. So even today we have those provisions in Shop and Establishment Acts where after few specified working hours, female employees are not allowed, or if they are allowed, they are subject to certain condition in respect of their safety and all. But with codes, we see that a stricter implication will be there in terms of its implementation. That is one. Second, we see now we need to provide them with adequate transportation facility along with other safety protocols, which are again more or less covered in most of the SNDs. But now the provision of this. But if you are asking female employees to work between a specified time frame, you need to obtain consent from employees. So that is again a big relief for female employees, that they need to work. There are additional few points that kuch percentage hona chahiye female employees ka XYZ. I'm not going into that depth, but yes, there are more provisions in terms of women's safety and empowerment. Similarly, representation in grievance redressal mechanism. I'll touch upon the GRC mechanism right here. That अभी भी GRC mechanism exists करता है, but अभी आप if you'll go through the ID Act के provision where it says every organization with 20 or more manpower will now mandatorily required to have their GRC. But exception था existing law में that if you have an existing mechanism which is taking care of your grievances, can be taken as an alternative. So exception था whether you follow the law or you have your own one. But with labor codes, those exceptions are done away. Now mandatorily every organization with 20 or more manpower have to have their GRC in place with equal participation of worker and employer. Then again female representation in the same ratio what they have in their company, and then chairmanship will be on a rotational basis. So again, representation of female employees in your important forum within the organization taking place. Last but not the least, they are not allowed to work in dangerous operations, or they have representation in safety committees as well, what they have been given in the GRC mechanism. So moving ahead with other benefits, maternity benefit mein there are no big changes. Yes, now there are relaxation in terms of having creche within your premises. Now you can have your joint effort के साथ अपना creche develop कर सकते हो, और government provided creche आप दे सकते हो, because what we saw during COVID, most of our clients were asking, we are ready to give that, but on a reimbursement basis, because we can't provide that in-house facility to our employees. So we allowed that, considering welfare is there, so why not we should take it as a compliance point. So यहाँ पर भी वो है, but again it is applicable on 50 employees. So there no gender given, but yes, 50 employees पे that applicability comes in. पहले Factories Act में and Maternity Act में there was a variation. Factory Act पे it used to say female employees, whereas Maternity Act पे female employees था, और vice versa था. I don't remember, but yes, there was a point of distinction between those two acts. Now again, very important point, that how to start your journey for code transition, labor code transition. I would say the first step should be your understanding of your manpower, understanding of your operations, because that is how you can start. Otherwise, what we see now, this concept which is concept of core and non-core taking shape. Even today, these provisions are existing, but zero enforcement. For example, states like Telangana or Andhra Pradesh, they already have those prohibitions, they already have those classification. And fortunately, we had the privilege of doing this exercise for many of big manufacturing units, where we understood that why that classification is important, both in terms of process and in terms of manpower classification. Why I am saying so, because if you'll go to other provision, you will see that now if you understand your processes are core in nature, then there is a prohibition for contractual workers to be deployed. Again, comes with exception that agar aapka process is of nature which is industry wide ऐसे ही चल रहा है, plus if there are business exigencies, or if you feel that your workers are not, contractual workers are not required for the complete working hours, you are allowed to go ahead and have contractual workers even in your core areas. Plus, an importance has been given, or classification has been given in the code itself, that how many processes will be considered to be non-core. For example, security. There was a dispute earlier कि इसको core माने, non-core माने. Now they have given it full clarity that now आपका housekeeping हो गया, and then आपका security हो गया, आपका manpower के other functions हो गए, which are not directly linked to your production, obviously can be taken as a non-core activity, and accordingly आप उस पे deploy कर सकते हो. Therefore, first and foremost step for any organization to move into this transition journey is to classify and to understand your workforce, because we run business but we don't understand our business in terms of classification. So take 1 more minute to cover it all. Sure. Important point in terms of leave encashment and inspector cum facilitator. I'll take just 1 more minute in just to cover that. Leave encashment now, again, abhi aap dekhenge SND mein there are provision which is not allowing employees to lapse those leaves. क्योंकि clarity नहीं है, then people are lapsing those आपका privilege leave. But now they understood that there is a loophole. Therefore, they have clearly defined in the law that now workers are entitled to get the encashment on an annual basis, both for their unavailed leave at which they are having at the end of calendar year, or if in case they have anything having in their bucket of accumulation leave, again they can ask for the accumulation. So now we need to realign our policy to see कहीं पे हमारा accumulation बहुत ज़्यादा तो नहीं है, क्योंकि 30 days का यहाँ पे कोड्स में accumulation limit दिया है. Last, improvement notice and inspector cum facilitator. Now the authorities will not straight away come and put you under an obligation by giving you a show cause notice, and rather they will be giving you an improvement notice with a timeline and direction to make those non-compliances good, which again is a very welcome step. If in case you are not abiding by that, only then they'll go ahead and fine with penalize you or fine with because now penalties are up to 20 lakhs. So now you need to see. Give you an example for industrial standing order. Today the penalty is 5,000, but with labor codes it will be 2 lakh. Now you need to decide what is good for you. I'll take only important point here is in terms of applicability of standing order, which was not the case in terms of understanding the concept. People were of the view that no, it is not applicable on me because I'm a service sector. I can give you multiple examples. For example, state like Karnataka, where they have prohibited or what is not prohibited, but they have extended the exemption given under the Shop and Establishment Act for not applying standing order provision on the IT and ITA sector, which clearly shows that it was applicable. Therefore, they had to come out with an exception or exemption for those sectors. So, abhi bhi applicable tha, pehle bhi applicable tha, but now what they have done, they have given 2 different draft model standing order for both manufacturing and non-manufacturing setups, and then adoption provisions are also given. But again, adoption ke case mein you need to realign your policies कि आप straight away adoption कर सकते हो, because then you need to see whether your policies are exactly in what the same sense what your provisions of the shop and establishment standing orders, draft model standing orders are saying. So वो realignment will be required, and then you can reach to a conclusion whether मुझे अपना standing order खुद draft करना और I can straight away go with the adoption. Because in case of adoption also, you need to intimate authorities कि मैं ये adopt कर रहा हूँ, and if he is of the view that considering your business, you need to add few more points, then obviously you need to go ahead and have your own standing order in place. I think I've covered in terms of key impact area. Really sorry for my pace, but yes, these topics are very interesting and would like to get into depth to make you understand. So I'll request Akhil sir to take you through how we can go ahead with the way forward journey. Just a minute, Sandeep, before we come to you. I know you have a lot of questions. But I think what we've discussed today, there are many good points which are coming and which brings a lot of clarity. You must have gone through a lot of discussions, webinars, or engagement with lawyers, consultants. But I think one point which I want to leave you with
it's very important for you to understand your organization, your workmen, and act accordingly, because the government has come out with only one intent, to make this as simple as they can, user friendly. I think we have never seen our country discussing labor law so extensively post independence. As people are comfortable with whatever was drafted in 1930, 1940s, and they've been continuing with that. But you've seen where the country has moved, and it's a need of an hour. That's one. Second is, from employee, the intent is, as you see, for the core and non-core activities, they are very clear. A lot of manufacturing units have 1,000 employees, and 7,000 are the contractors who are working in that unit. So that kind of composition is there, and the contractor employees who are working in those units does not get the benefit which employees are entitled to. So that's why, because the contractors never pass on those benefits to those workmen. So that's why they want to come out with clear thing that we want to pass on as much benefit as we can to the employees, and we want to build up that sense of security like any other countries across the globe. Obviously, we are not as good as maybe in terms of social security or other, like in Europe or US, but there, you can see the workforce. Ma'am already laid down that the kind of workforce we have, and we have to act as per our workforce. Basis that, I think it's a commendable move by the government, both from employer side of it and employee, by way of covering gig workers, platform workers, unorganized, and that's why when you act, you have to look into these specific, areas like payroll, timelines, HR function, manpower composition review, how your P&L will get impacted because of the change in definition of wages, and for that matter, net in hand as well. But we can manage that if we do the structuring, creativity. We put a lot of creativity into that. We can manage that, and we can get that benefit and balance it out.
So good evening, everyone. So definitely we are almost maybe done with the session, and in the interest of time, basically definitely our panelists Akhil, Deepak, Pooja, so they have covered most of the aspects. So in the interest of time, definitely like I will just check the final thoughts and also ask questions from the audience side also, and probably we need to close it probably next 5-10 minutes. So maybe first thing, basically from audience side, any question on wages side, like when there is a change in wages, right? So there is a 50% cap on exclusion. So do you have any question on that specific thing? We can ask question from the audience also directly. Any question on the wages side, basically how the wages should be structured? That is largely understood. Maybe, maybe Akhil, if you can just tell in 1 minute that from a company structuring perspective, what should be rethought by the organization? Because most of the company here will be small or medium or large in size, mostly small and medium. What from a structuring perspective they should think of?
So I think we also asked the same question to the minister, that now it's notified, and if companies bring any changes into their structure to realign the wages, is that permissible? They said yes, if whatever is given in the law, and the interpretation has to be taken in a positive way. Like I'll give you an example. There's one exclusion which is sum paid to defray special expenses due to the nature of the business. Now people can take any kind of interpretation. काम करने के लिए organization, business purpose के लिए, whatever expenses employees incurring, that should be excluded as a part of wages. So there we have to come out with a expense which we can justify and substantiate, and there are other components also where we can be very creative and do the restructuring and take the benefit of those exclusions. But it's important for you to align it so that you can take that maximum advantage of 50%. Otherwise, it's a huge business, huge financial impact which is coming to the organization.
Right. And also on the transition phase also, basically how should company transition? We have a lot of confusion around the transition dates. So what are the key sort of thing company should keep in mind when they are planning their transition to this new code?
Yeah, so Sandeep, I think it's already started. The companies, most of the companies have started in 2020 this journey. But if you've not, 21st is the date. It's very much effective, implemented, and we have to start that journey today. obviously, as I said, it's an evolving law. A lot of clarification will come, FAQs will come. But whatever interpretation and understanding today we have, we should start working on the changes. As I said, there are two implications. One is the financial implication, one is the operational implication. We covered lots of operational implication where you have to look into your manpower composition, that how many employees is a fixed term employees, how many are permanent, how you should hire people in the future, what contractor labors you have for the core activities, non-core activities. So there you have to work on your HR policies, employment contracts, your arrangement with the contractors, everything. And from financial implication, you have to work on your compensation structure. And I think the law is very much in place, and obviously the FAQs, rules, state rules will come, but that will take things obviously in a better way. But whatever today is there, we have to start acting on it.
Absolutely. Thank you for that answer. And my next question to audience also. Any question on when we say there is a contact manufacturing, and so Robin, you have a question on this particular contact manufacturing side?
Not contract manufacturing. On F&M side, but I'll ask it.
Okay. So on the contact manufacturing side, any question? A lot of things have been discussed that there is a contact manufacturing, how it can be done, what are workers, what are non-workers. Any question around that from the audience side? Maybe if you can just throw some light on that, there is a definition on worker and non-worker. So how to basically adopt that classification correctly in the company, how it can impact the companies?
Sandeep, to be honest, it is one of the important areas when you classify your workforce into workers and non-workers. Because if you carefully see today, most of the provisions are applicable on employees.
Yeah.
Considering they want to expand that applicability to, and most of the provisions are applicable to employees because they want to retain that benefit for the wider organization. Your second question was with respect to this contract labor?
Yes.
So again, sir, even today we have certain classification in terms of contract workers, but अभी एक exception ये है कि अगर contractor getting into an arrangement with the principal employer and if he is committed to produce any result through a contract worker which he hired specifically for that, only then he is covered under contract labor. अगर वो permanent employee से काम कराता है जहाँ पर उसका, and these are very much clarified in the codes itself, that अगर वो contractor भी अपने permanent employee से काम कराता है where उसका सारा service cycle is dependent upon the contractor performance, then he is out of CLRA purview. So if even like an organization जहाँ पे हम services दे रहे हैं but through our permanent employees, I think we are well out of that CLRA purview.
Okay. And any clarity on the Shop and Establishment Act and these acts? So any sort of basically are they overlapping? How will this come?
Sir, we understand that the subject is concurrent in nature and therefore the state will never lose its importance. It will still prevail. But what we've been observing that now what you see in labor codes, most of the provisions are nothing but a better version of what we have in labor codes. Oh, sorry, your Shop and Establishment Act. So therefore, I can't comment officially, but yes, you will see with the passage of time, either they will lose their importance in terms of local regulation for state laws, or state governments will make them in alignment with the state rules of labor codes. A last point that they will repeal those Shop and Establishment Act, because now only one provision for which the states have to rely upon Shop and Establishment Act is notifying gazetted holidays for the state. Other than that, you see a better version coming up in labor codes and applicability again.
So for some time we will see some sort of overlapping and then probably
it will overlap. Even today it is overlapping. Even there are concepts where we are filing integrated returns at a central level. But even we see those overlappings today, that where state authorities are asking to have the local returns also. So वो overlapping आज भी है, वो ambiguity है. But till that time repeal नहीं होंगे SND, this continuity or this comparison will continue.
Okay. So thank you so much for that. And so Pooja, my last question to you will be on basically most meaningful impact on women employee. And there are a lot of basically coverage in this particular code which cover a lot of basically how women can be sort of included in this. So what are the most meaningful impact on the women employees and how we can make it sort of real inclusion when we talk about this rather than just on the paper?
Yeah, as I shared earlier, see, women employees' participation in the workforce, it has been increasing over the last few years. And of course, when you need to understand while you are making them a part of your organization as including them in your workforce, it is not just about compliance, it is more about culture in your organization. Right now we can talk about POSH as a compliance, we can talk about maternity as a policy, but then how far are we really open to taking it as a culture? This 26 weeks maternity leave which has to be given to a female employee, option of work from home in case she wants to, while she's coming back to join back, and then the crèche facility. See, we as organizations, entrepreneurs, business, we normally take this as an expense and an additional compliance burden. And that is why my only one piece of advice, please take it more from a cultural perspective rather than a compliance perspective. That's what I can say.
So perfect. This is part of DEI also. So diversity, equity and inclusion. Yeah. So I think most of the questions have been already covered, and we can move to maybe 2 questions from the audience side now. So any question from the audience side here? Can you pass on the mic there? What will be calculated retaining allowance? What would
be the definition of retaining allowances?
Retaining
we have
allowances.
to implement that in our, that I would say, salary structure. So what would be the definition of that thing?
So I think I have not seen in MNCs any kind of retaining allowance.
Obviously,
Yeah. So it's any other allowance they mentioned because they have taken this.
Generally, we will go for some manufacturing setup.
Yeah.
In that case, we have to pay some ESI over there to the workers and all.
So you are paying retaining allowance as a part of
That's what I am asking, sir. It's been mentioned in this new labor code.
Yeah, it starts with basic pay, retaining allowance and DNS allowance. Okay. And retaining allowance can be any other allowance. It's in the nature of cash component you are paying to your workman, to your employee. But
sir, let's say if I'll implement that particular allowance in that particular structure, and so what would be that tenure for I would say, sir, holding that a particular amount, if I'll say, for a tenure for 6 months, or should I pay it on monthly basis? If I'll
so mode of payment, see, the wages has to be looked into at an annual, because that's a question which we used to have, ki monthly हमको देखना है, annual देखना है.
Generally what happens, sir, in MNC they will say that we generally provide some kind of a retention allowances too, after a tenure of 1 year or 2 years.
So that can be a retention bonus or incentive. See, there are difference between if you are retaining the people and giving that allowance or bonus, like हमारे organization में क्या है कि long term service award होता है.
That's what I'm asking.
Retention की nature में.
So what would be the definition?
So that award, see, that's why I said, which is variable once in a year, depending upon some conditions, and not universally payable to everyone. Long term service not happy to जिसने 5 साल या 4 साल काम किया उसी को मिलेगा. So that's in the nature of performance or linked to that period. So वो remuneration का part नहीं हो. But आप उससे retaining allowance करके दिखाओगे that there is an ambiguity. So my suggestion to you that don't show this as a retaining allowance, show it as a other component of retaining bonus or retaining incentive and justify it because we recently we were at
सर वो जो प्रोविजंस में डाला है दैट इज फॉर सीजनल इंडस्ट्री. वहाँ पे रिटेंशन अलाउंस देते हैं बिकॉज सीजनल है वहाँ पे काम. तो जनरली अगर हम अपने सेक्टर में एज मेंशन बाय अखिल सर कि उसका ट्रीटमेंट उस तरह से होगा, बट वहाँ पे प्रोविजन डालने का इंटेंट इज फॉर सीजनल इंडस्ट्री. देयरफॉर इट विल फॉर्म पार्ट ऑफ वेजेस. It will not be mentioned there as far as understanding conventional practice में retention allowance seasonal industry पे रहता है. But there could be other interpretations. But as was mentioned by the basis is understanding कि वो अलग composition आप treat कैसे करना is another thing. But intention of putting that in the law because we were fortunate enough to discuss this with the who drafted these codes. So we also had these questions in the very beginning. तो बोला this is specifically for covering the seasonal industry.
Yeah.
Right.
About gratuity as 1 year or 5 years for the full-time employees?
As we know that today gratuity is paid to the employees who completes 5 years of continuous period of service. Some 4 years, 60 months, 8 months. Yeah. But for the fixed term, they've come out with a provision that if you're hiring for the people for project, like in IT, ITS, we've seen The people are being hired for specific projects or otherwise also. And there, even after completion of 1 year, you have to pay the gratuity. You have to pay in a proportionate way, yes. Pro rata basis, yeah.
But a full-time employee?
नहीं, उनको तो 5 साल बाद ही मिलेगा. जिसका टेन्योर कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में फिक्स्ड है, आपने 2 साल के लिए हायर किया, 2 साल के बाद उसको जाना ही है, तो यू हैव टू पे द ग्रेचुटी.
और सर एक क्वेश्चन मैं आपके लिए छोड़ देता हूँ. एक प्रोविजन और है ग्रेचुटी का जहाँ पे एक्सेप्शन है, जैसे एफटीज के लिए 1 ईयर है. एक प्रोविजन और है जहाँ पे ग्रेचुटी का एक्सेप्शन 5 इयर्स नहीं है. तो ये आप जाके पढ़ना कौन सा प्रोविजन है वो. तो 2 जगह एक्सेप्शन है, एक सीनियर वर्कर्स का इफ आई एम नॉट रॉन्ग, और एक जैसे एज मेंशन बाय अखिल सर एफटीज के केस में, रेगुलर के केस में स्टिल 5 इयर्स.
सर अगर हम कॉन्ट्रैक्ट ओपन एंडेड छोड़ देते हैं,
हाँ, तो दैट्स अ परमानेंट एम्प्लॉय. Like if you're hired, you've been given an employment contract, there is no end date to it. वो termination होगी subject to these conditions and all, वो different है, but that's a permanent employee.
But we're not mentioning it as a salary because otherwise minimum wages भी हो जाएंगे उसमें applicable. तो as a contract open ended छोड़ सकते कर सकते तो 5 years रहेगा.
हाँ, permanent employee.
Sir, is there any time foundation for the employee?
And you know, just before that question, the last question we'll take. We have put just one question in one word. What best describes your feeling about labor code? So if you can basically just scan this and put that, and so that we can think of if there is any sort of message to be given by our leaders. Yeah, please go ahead.
Sir, is there any time foundation for the employer to demand the gratuity from the company?
So time foundation for employee.
Yeah, employee.
तो फुल एंड फाइनल के बाद आपको 30 दिन के अंदर देना ही होता है, ऐसा तो है. 30 दिन, जिस दिन आपका लास्ट वर्किंग डेज है उसके 30 दिन के अंदर आपको देनी है ग्रेचुटी. दैट्स अभी भी है वो.
अभी तो एम्प्लॉय मांगते ही नहीं है ना, मोस्ट ऑफ 90% टीसी.
चले जाते हैं. नहीं चले तो जाते हैं.
माय क्वेश्चन इज देयर एनी टाइम बाउंडेशन? तो प्राइवेट सेक्टर में रियलिटी एम्प्लॉय लेते नहीं है.
नहीं ऐसा सर मैं पहली बार सुन रहा हूँ. कोई
90% कंपनी में ऐसा ही होता है.
सर अगर आप एग्जिस्टिंग प्रोविजंस पढ़ोगे ना, तो अभी तो मैं आपको एग्जैक्ट प्रोविजन बताता हूँ. एम्प्लॉय 30 डेज के अंदर बताएगा, फिर एक फॉर्म होगा जिसमें एम्प्लॉयर चेक करेगा, हाँ मैं एग्री करता हूँ, वो फॉर्म भर देगा. नहीं मैं डिसएग्री करता हूँ, फिर अलग फॉर्म है. दोनों फॉर्म का भी इंटीमेशन अथॉरिटी को जाता है. एंड देन जब अथॉरिटी कहते नहीं इतना दे, फिर कहता हाँ मैं एग्री करता हूँ, फिर वो फॉर्म उसको ग्रेचुटी पे करता है, एंड दैट हैज टू बी कंप्लीटेड विद इन 30 डेज. फिर उसका इंटीमेशन भी जाता है कि सर मैंने ग्रेचुटी दे दिया. तो फॉलो ये कहीं पे भी नहीं हो रहा, क्योंकि इमीडिएटली आपके जैसे ही आप सर्विस से रिमूव हो रहे हो या आप छोड़ रहे हो वॉलंटरी, वो साथ ही फुल एंड फाइनल आपको हो जाता है. इसलिए वो टाइम लाइन की जरूरत पड़ती नहीं इन जनरल, इसलिए उनको मांगने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती, क्योंकि वो खुद ही दे देते होंगे.
कोई एग्रीमेंट में अगर वेजेस के बारे में लिखा हुआ है, क्या हमें वो फिर से एक बार एग्रीमेंट को रिव्यू करना पड़ेगा बेस्ड ऑन न्यू वेजेस लॉ?
सर खाली वेजेस नहीं, अगर आपकी कोई भी प्रोविजन टुडे इज इन कॉन्ट्राडिक्शन और या पॉलिसी में इन कॉन्ट्राडिक्शन टू योर प्रोविजंस ऑफ द कोड्स, स्टैंड वॉइड. इसलिए गवर्नमेंट लिबरल है, अभी नहीं कुछ बोलेगी, बट आपको जितना टाइम चाहिए, ये लास्ट ब्रैकेट है आपके पास 4-5 महीने की, इसमें वट एवर यू कैन डू यू नीड टू मेक दोज चेंजेस, बिकॉज उसके बाद फिर वो इग्नोरेंस ऑफ लॉ इज नॉट एन एक्सक्यूज वाली बात शुरू हो जाएगी. बट वो आज भी वैलिड है.
Yeah, yes sir.
Just a very generic question. Who owns the labor compliance today with these new codes coming in inside the organization? Who's the
office in charge?
सर अभी कॉन्सेप्ट ये है कि पहले क्या होता था, जिसका आपने जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल शॉप एंड एस्टैब्लिशमेंट में आप देखो, जिसको मैनेजर अपॉइंट कर दिया, फैक्ट्री में जिसको ऑक्यूपायर अपॉइंट कर दिया, लाइबल फॉर द नॉन कंप्लायंस. अब नाउ व्हाट दे हैव डन, दे हैव इंट्रोड्यूस्ड द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ ऑफिसर इन चार्ज, यानी कि हम एक्चुअली में चेक करेंगे हु वाज एक्चुअली लाइबल. तो अगर किसी केसेस में देखा जाए कि रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी वाज लाइंग विद समबडी एल्स एंड जो टॉप मैनेजमेंट है उसको नहीं अवेयरनेस थी, देन ही विल बी हेल्ड लाइबल फॉर दैट. तो आपका जो पॉइंट है सर, एसएनडी के केस में अभी विद द मैनेजर एंड विद फॉर फैक्ट्री इट इज विद द ऑक्यूपायर. इन टर्म्स ऑफ सर वो आपके सर्टिफिकेट पे पब्लिश रहता है, उसके बिना यू कांट गेट द रजिस्ट्रेशंस. वेलकम.
What are the provisions for the bonus for salary above 21,000?
अभी तो थ्रेशोल्ड आया ही नहीं सर.
But no, अभी existing 31,000 ही है. Statutory bonus is for the people who are less than 21,000. For above, over and above, it's a variable.
अभी existing provision पूछ रहे हैं. अभी तो सर 21,000 पे एप्लीकेबिलिटी अराइज होती है, अप टू 21,000 वाले एम्प्लॉय सारे कवर होते हैं. और आप उसको आपको 8 मंथ्स में ग्रेचुटी स्टेट बोनस पे करना है, विच इज बाय नवंबर. जो प्रोविजन अभी भी कोड में सेम है. इट इज जस्ट दैट कि पहले 21,000 गिवन था, अब क्योंकि स्टेट टू स्टेट वेरी करेगा, सो यू विल सी अ राइज इन स्टार्ट बोनस एंड डिफरेंस ऑल्सो, बिकॉज हर स्टेट का अपना मैकेनिज्म होगा. तो ये एक बहुत बड़ा चेंज है. नहीं, अभी वो आया ही नहीं है सर. हो सकता है 30,000 भी हो जाए, वो अप्रोप्रिएट गवर्नमेंट की नोटिफिकेशन पे डिपेंड करेगा. अभी थ्रेशोल्ड डिफाइंड नहीं हुआ कोर्ट में अंडर पेमेंट ऑफ बोनस चैप्टर.
सर पैन रजिस्ट्रेशन वाला पोर्टल अभी एक्टिव है या मतलब इट इज इन इम्प्लीमेंटेशन वेयर वी हैव टू डू ऑल द रजिस्ट्रेशन?
अभी नहीं सर, अभी एज पर द गिवन प्रोविजंस आपकी एग्जिस्टिंग रजिस्ट्रेशंस प्रिवेल करेंगी. टिल दैट टाइम कुछ ऐसा प्रोविजन आता है जिसके लिए यू नीड टू गेट इनटू एन एडिशनल रजिस्ट्रेशन. तो अभी आप नो नीड टू वरी, सारे लाइसेंसेस जो एग्जिस्टिंग है वो चलेंगे.
Returns also, right?
Yeah. So just to give you a perspective, today under this 29 Acts, you have to file 31 returns. Yeah. But government is coming out with 4 returns, 1 return per code, which is big relaxation. Even register, आज 84 register maintain करने पड़ते हैं, आने वाले टाइम में 8 करने पड़ेंगे. So that's why people are giving a lot of good positive comments. You know, still a lot of people have not given their comments, but whatever it's coming, it's showing that people are looking forward. Thank you very much. Thanks for your patience hearing and asking those questions. Thank you.
So thank you very much to the wonderful panelists Pooja, Akhil and Deepak. And
thank you so much, the panelists and the moderators. And thank you so much, audience, for having such a great patience, for listening over and over. And definitely it was a great discussion. I would request all the panelists to please be back on the stage, and for the felicitation I would like to invite Mr. Devjit Singh and Mr. Amit Jindal on the stage to felicitate Mr. Amit Jindal and Mr. Devjit Singh, Mr. Akhil Chandana, Mr. Sandeep Mehta, Ms. Pooja Nair, thank you so much, sir. Thank you, everyone. I would like to request Mr. Sahil Makkar, CEO, Punjab Angels Network, for a small announcement, please.
Good evening, everyone. Hello. Mic testing. Yeah. So good evening, everyone. Yeah. So I am Sahil Makkad, and I am a chairman and CEO of Punjab Angels Network. So I am a chartered accountant by profession and also ISB alumni. So we are having one match with the Punjab Desher Celebrity Cricket Team. Maybe how many have heard Celebrity Cricket League? So 4-5 people. So it's a league like IPL league, but played between the celebrities. Hai. So there is a Mumbai team, there is a Kolkata team, Telugu team, Karnataka team, and there is one Punjab team. Hai. So Punjab Desher actually won the 11th edition, which happened this year, 2025. And for the first time, and I'm the officially financial advisor for Punjab Desher. I'm the chairman for Punjab Angels, but officially partner. So we are doing one cricket match. It's a promotional match between Punjab Desher and Punjab Angels Network. And if somebody wishes to partner or play, so it's happening on Sunday, and everyone is invited to watch the match. But if somebody wishes to play or partner in any way, I think that would be. I don't know whether it's visible from there or not, but one match is in Ludhiana happening on Friday, and the other match is in Chandigarh happening in Sector 16 ground on Sunday from 11 a.m. onwards. So you're most welcome to attend the match, and also maybe if you wish to partner or maybe play, if anybody is a good player or something like that, then do contact me and we can see that if you can play in that match. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, on behalf of TiE Chandigarh, I would really like to request a sincere thanks to Grant Thornton for their partnership and thought leadership and providing their valuable time and efforts of all the way traveling here and delivering such a great session and the presentations. Now I would like to invite everyone for a group picture and then we can continue over high tea and networking. May I request everyone for a group picture, please?